Is that my date?
No, that's, yeah.
Nice meeting you.
Yes.
We're live.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Hello. Hello. Good evening. We're gonna start our, May 29th, 2025 planning board meeting. We want to say welcome to everyone tonight. And what time is it starting? Good evening. We have, first I want to just go over a couple of things. We have a sign up sheet for anyone that wants to speak on Mill Street. It's circulating around, but hold it up if you have it in your hands.
Right here.
It's right there, okay.
Anybody else need to sign in on that was this week?
Okay, if you want an agenda to follow us tonight, they're right here. Just come and get one. On the sign up sheet, we have rules that we'll be following tonight, 3 minutes for each person. We're gonna have Jean taking the time.
You need to say the names of the street.
Dr. Young is going to do the names, once we get the sheet, that's for Mill Street. We didn't get a sign up sheet for the chickens. But I don't think we need one.
I don't do.
Okay, all right, and we did a little change, we're gonna start with old business, which is going to be the boulevards.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Charlie Gottlieb from Whiteman, Osterman, and on behalf of the applicant, here with the project owner, Hero, as well as Ethan Allen from engineering, Crawford Substance Engineering Land Survey. I believe we have all issues rectified. We're hoping the board would entertain an approval resolution this evening. I know there are some minor outstanding engineering comments that could be conditions of such approval. So we're taking any questions. Other than that, if the board would like to take over or ask questions, let me know.
Any questions for the boulevards from the board? No.
So the lease issue has been resolved.
Yes, the note, per our last meeting, the note has been added on the site plan sheet that has the lot must say the 9 spots dedicated to the project must be available for the life of the project. Failure to provide these 9 spots will require a site plan amendment to be approved by the Hudson Planning Board. In such an event, the code enforcer may issue a notice of violation requiring the cessation of the commercial space until amended site plan approval is obtained.
And you understand the importance of that?
Yes.
Okay, good. And I wanted on the record that we are not the reason why you've been here 2 years. Okay.
Do we have a chance to? I'll keep my mouth.
All right. So can I get a motion to?
So if the public hearing was closed at the last
Yes.
meeting, if you are ready to move forward, if there are no more questions, we have a draft resolution, which everyone can review. We can go over it with you.
Did everyone get a chance to review it?
Because there's
I
still
did
some.
it. You had it on
Yeah,
email.
But I did make a slight change,
tell us what the change is.
so when we're going through.
And you have it in front of you.
So let's just go through the condition.
It's called the boulevards, 117, 119, and 122 Fairview Avenue, 2 Parkwood Boulevard, 1 Oakwood Boulevard, and 23 Oakwood Boulevard.
So, the first part is just the standard clauses about the history of the project, we had a hearing, we sent it to county planning. So the conditions would be: 1, payment of fees in escrow. 2, confirmation by the planning board engineer that the applicant has obtained a sewer extension permit from the city of Hudson and approval of the sewer connection as part of the city's meetings permit by DEC. That's something that's been required as part of the consent order with DEC. 3, addition of a note on site plan set sheet C113 to state the 9 spots dedicated to the project must be available for the life of the project. Failure to provide 9 spots will require a site plan amendment to be approved by the Hudson Planning Board. In such event, the code enforcement officer may issue a notice of violation requiring the cessation of the commercial space until amended site plan approval is obtained. 4, incorporation of the landscaping plan into the final site plan set. 5, approval by the DBA of an area variance authorizing the reduced parking space dimensions, something that's still hanging out there. 6, submission of written confirmation from the local fire code official stating that the proposed site plan provides adequate emergency vehicle access in accordance with the 2020 fire code. 7, submission of written confirmation from the local fire code official approving the proposed exit and entrance width as depicted on the site plan set, which are approximately 11.8 feet wide. This confirmation shall acknowledge that the reduced lane width is acceptable and meets the requirements of the fire code. Approval by the city of Hudson of a public access easement over portions of the sidewalk that are located outside of the DOT and city right of ways. And the applicant has asked us to say city of Hudson or DOT, just depending on how that falls jurisdictionally, which I'm okay with. that.
So the and or.
Yeah, we're gonna add or DOT, is along the state highway. So, approval from the City Department of Public Works for all improvements proposed in the city right of way. 10, revision of the site plan set to include comprehensive and accurately labeled details for the proposed underground detention system. The satisfaction of the planning board engineer, the set shall include detailed control structure drawings with all relevant pipe, orifice, weir, and outlet elevations, clearly noted. Cross sections and system details. So there's a whole list of technical comments. Water surface elevations, manufacturer specifications, storm filters, storm chambers, inspection port details. Eliminate ambiguity by specifying the storm chamber details, drawings of the control structures. And then a note that all these technical materials have to be submitted to the planning board engineer for his review prior to final approval. So those are the conditions that have been drafted based on your discussions at prior meetings.
Okay, any questions? Now.
You can get a motion to adopt the
So make a
resolution.
motion that we approve this application
This resolution.
with resolution, with the conditions, as spoken.
Your second? Dr. Young, your second? Yeah, I'm second.
Who's it that was?
All in favor?
Hi, it's your second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so
So wait, I didn't hear, you guys have to vote.
any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Let's just call everyone. because- Okay, hold on.
You wanna do a roll call vote?
It was Teresa Joyner,
Oh, yes.
Veronica Conklin,
Yes.
Gabrielle Hoffman,
Yes.
Haley Michael absent, Randall Martin,
Yes.
Eugene Chevsky,
Yes.
Bettina Young.
Yes.
Okay, so it passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
The motion passes, okay.
Congratulations.
Who's absent? Can I get a motion to open the public hearing for 431 Union Street?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. 431 Union Street? He's back there. Tell us about your pets.
This is my application to keep 5 chickens at 431 Union Street. Which is the clergy housing for Christ Episcopal Church.
So I think you're looking for.
This is
Tell us a little more.
this is 5 chickens.
Yes, 5 hens,
Yeah, no roosters.
no roosters. I've submitted all the plans of the coop and all the measurements and everything. They'll be securely in there, they won't be wandering around the neighborhood. They're quiet, they're clean.
And they have to be kept in the cage at all times.
Yeah. Yeah.
The application meets
And
all
on
the
the file.
sections of the fire code.
Okay, any questions from the planning board?
No, I'm familiar with chickens.
No, they're not here now.
No, they're not here.
Do we have a resolution?
Okay, any questions from the public? Public, any questions from the public?
And to go back up.
Not one question.
Well, with only 5, I don't get you many.
Get a lot of time.
Maybe if we come.
Yeah, you can't sell it.
No, I know.
But you can give them away.
I can give them. Yeah.
Okay, no questions from the public?
Anybody outside there?
Anybody outside, any questions?
That's a donation.
So can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion. I second.
Okay, Jean second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now can I get a motion to approve the,
Well, there's been a resolution,
okay, go ahead.
granting a conditional use permit. For the city of Hudson, that we have to have a conditional use permit in order to have chickens. So there's been some findings by the planning board and then conditions. So the resolution proposes that. The planning board finds that all proposed structures, equipment, or material are readily accessible for fire and police protection. The proposed use of such location, size, and character that in general, it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which is proposed to be situated. It will not be detrimental to the orderly development of adjacent properties in accordance with the zoning classification of such properties. The applicant has provided a site plan that demonstrates the hens will be kept in a manner that will not impact neighboring properties. The location and size of such use, the nature and intensity of the operations involved or conducted in connection therewith. Its site layout, the access streets shall be such that both pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of persons in connection therewith will not be hazardous or inconvenient or incongruous with the conflict and normal traffic of the neighborhood. Therefore, there will be no increase in traffic due to the keeping of hens. The location and height of the buildings, the nature and height of the fences, and the nature and extent of landscaping on the site shall be that use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land or buildings. The locations of the hens will not be detrimental impact on the neighboring properties. And then the conditions of approval are payment of all fees and escrow. There will be no more than 5 hens on the property at any given time. The hens must be kept in the enclosure as depicted on the site plan at all times. There shall be compliance with all setbacks and requirements set forth in section 70-17 of the Hudson City Code, and there shall be no sale of eggs or chicken meat on the property.
And you did say earlier that you can identify your chickens.
Yeah. They come when.
It happens.
They come and look, I know.
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Come when they
People
call.
can identify.
Do you have like tags on them or you just?
No, I can
No, you
recognize
Just
them.
don't-
Yeah,
So if a stranger comes up from another yard, you'll know it's not yours.
yeah.
Okay.
Christian,
Kristen.
Yes.
do you have anything on this?
No.
Thank you.
Does this provision enable him to automatically re-up? Like if a chicken
Die, yes,
So it runs with the.
passes, he
Yes,
can
we
just
can have up to 5.
always up the bar.
so you can always replace them without coming back.
Yeah, and it runs with the property, so like as long as, you know, as long as he's on the property, he should be able to have chickens.
Anything in case one of them do get free. And maybe come to my house or something.
Yeah, chicken dinner.
Okay. So, can I get a motion to approve the resolution for granting the conditional use for the chickens?
I'll make a motion.
Yes,
And I second it.
sure. You wanna call anybody in?
Yes.
Any discussion? Okay. Random? Who was initially by you, Dr.?
Yeah, and second. I
Are you second?
Word, yeah, I can't say the word right to that now.
And
I
Jean,
need another cup of coffee.
and you just, okay. Dr. Young?
I'm fine with it.
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Teresa, yes.
Yes.
Veronica, yes. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? So it passed.
Okay,
Congratulations.
thank you very much.
Enjoy the chicken today.
Okay. We're moving fast today. Sounds good. Okay, now can I get a motion to open up the public hearing? First, open up the public hearing for Mill Street loft.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second.
okay, Gabby, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now before we do anything, did everyone who wants to speak on Mill Street sign the sheet? Because we're gonna, Dr. Young's gonna take the sheet.
I have the sheet actually, does anyone else need to sign the sheet?
Okay, yeah.
Someone wants?
Okay, Mill Street is here, you've gotten all the public complaints and kind of addressed them all.
Excuse me, can you pass that sheet to the hallway? I mean, there's a-
Oh, yeah,
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Here you go.
if it's not enough room, I have a second sheet.
Oh, there was enough room.
There's enough room.
No flag.
What's happening?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you know, I'm gonna let you guys, do we have this, can we put it on the board? Cause we have it. So, I'm gonna let you talk, you know, kind of turn it to the public, maybe get behind over here, all the way on.
Who's you up here?
And can you pull it up?
Which document are you presenting?
Which is
The new plans? Thank you.
Amanda wants to know what's the first document.
Yeah, these are just some visuals that we've.
And then, what did you update them as, so I can find them? And did you send them the Municipal out?
Yeah.
These?
Yeah,
No, these are just presentation drawings.
okay, so we don't have that.
Oh,
Okay.
it's the same things we have, but a little different.
Yeah, we can always send them after this meeting.
Okay.
They're just.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Sean Carney of the Commercial Realty Group. I'm here tonight with Andy Learn and George Schmidt of CPL Engineering, the project civil engineer. Last time we were before this board, the board requested some additional information and calculations for us to confirm that our development
Based on
have
public comments.
right, a negative impact on the flooding of any of the neighboring properties. We've since submitted that to the board and we've received a review letter from Barton and Judice confirming our conclusions that our development will not worsen any of the flooding conditions for the neighboring properties.
Can you speak up, please, for us in the back?
Sure.
Thank you.
We brought a pretty basic graphic. Our submission letter had a lot of data and analytics in it. We tried to summarize it with our conclusions on the first page for someone like me to understand it. I think Barton and Judice's response letter further summarized it.
We're gonna put that on the,
In a
we're gonna
very,
put that response letter on the screen.
in a very concise way, but beyond that, to go a little further, we brought these graphics just to show the path of the water as it currently is, and then post-development for the stormwater as well as the stream channel. So we'll be happy to talk more about that, answer any questions on it. I did want to take a moment just to kind of take a step back. So we've been in front of this board for a little over a year now. We've had a lot of changes, a lot of additions to the plans, and I do just want to highlight some of them for the board because things have evolved a bit. So on our site, we've changed the facade, provided the board with some updated renderings to the buildings. We've provided walking trails to our woods picnic area, as well as a path down to the basin area. and some benches for a seating area for residents. Looking off our site, we provided additional landscaping, there's a landscaping plan.
Just
Oh, okay, never mind. And it's in this. We provide additional landscaping and trees along Mill Street. We improved the turnaround at the end of Mill Street, fire access turnaround, emergency service will be on our site. But we are improving the turnaround at the end of Mill Street. We're installing sidewalks from our site all the way down to Second Street. And we'll be providing a bus shelter that anyone can use if they call ahead of time. And if based on the demand, once we're built, the county wants to extend the bus route, the shelter is already there. And lastly, the existing water line on Mill Street is 6-inch. Talking to DPW, it acts as basically a 2-inch because it's very old and corroded. So some of the residents on Mill Street may not see this with their domestic water, but if there was a fire and the hydrant on Mill Street probably doesn't have the adequate flow to fight the fire. So we'll be replacing all of the water mains on Mill Street with an 8-inch pipe. And then that's a good summary of some of the design changes and community benefits. But one thing I did want to kind of highlight, I brought up in the past, but I think it's important to mention again. So yes, we Kearney Group, we're the developers, we're the builders, but most importantly, we're the owners and we're the managers. So 10 years from now, 15 years, 50 years from now, right now we're a second generation company. We're working on third generation. They're a little young, but eventually we'll be a third generation company. And any issues that come up, and issues will come up, right? Whether it's during construction, during management, we have affordable, we have mixed income, we have market rate, issues come up. But we're gonna be the face that addresses those issues, corrects them, and responds, right? And it's always gonna be us. We don't flip it, we don't sell it, we don't deal with a third party manager, it's always us. And I know I've mentioned that in the past, but I feel like it was important to mention again. So I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has now, or you can wait for public comment.
How about the trail that takes you to Second Street, was it? Yeah,
Thank you. So, we'll be working with the Columbia Land Conservancy, who will actually be constructing the trail. And what that looks like, we don't know yet because the design isn't done. It may be some in-kind service, which will provide some construction, some tree clearing for it, but we'll be working with them to construct the trail.
and that'll be like another way out of Mill Street in a sense.
Yeah, it'll be a walking trail meandering from Third Street to.
And the old kind of vehicles can get there, the emergency vehicles can't get it.
Not on that, that'll be wrong.
No, that'd be more. Well, I mean.
So the Empire State Trail.
Hurt something.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So the Empire State Trail going up to Harry Howard was designed for emergency vehicles.
Okay.
That has the breakaway bollards. Yeah, I think that maybe that's referring to.
Now, this project is gonna be perpetually affordable housing.
Right, so there'll be a deed restriction that will make it affordable.
In the beginning, you had a methodology of an algorithm that you applied to the parking. Because it was gonna be affordable housing, that's not one-on-one parking, what, can you explain that again?
Yeah, so we did a parking study, and in addition to the parking study, we provided a lot of data for our existing developments. So it's market rate has a lot higher parking demands than affordable or mixed income development. So all throughout the Hudson Valley, I think we provided 6 to 8 comparable developments. The parking ratio is closer to 0.4 parking spaces per apartment. So although our parking study didn't really take that into account, they had it in there as an appendix, and they came to the determination of 57 is more than adequate for the 70 apartments.
And that applies no matter where the complex is. You know, for instance, this isn't in the center of town, right? It's hard to access the shops and the bus stop and so on and so forth. So,
That's a great point. Our original, there's different, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I apologize, but there's different categories with different data sets. We initially did one that was more city center focused, and then we were asked to revise it by the board for more of this setting.
And that's what we're coming with. But they're currently sitting at a 0.8 to 1 ratio. So 0.8 spots per one apartment.
Right, and the average, I think, is 0.5.
If you look at the statewide average for affordable housing, you're down he said about 0.4 to 0.5 parking. And Bliss Towers that was just in before the board, I believe have 150 units plus or minus, and they have 40 spaces that are underutilized currently. They have vacant spaces.
And just in case these spaces aren't underutilized, where will the overflow parking be? Do we have answers? Because I know it's a very narrow and it's very short street. Is there
Yeah,
any
I don't,
consideration?
sure. Is that for me?
I don't know. Sorry, this is my very first planning board meeting ever.
Okay.
So, I guess I'm asking the board also if that's,
Well, right now, we visit there, right? And, they got driveways. Every house there has a driveway. I think it was one house that we didn't notice the driveway. But every house on the other side has a driveway. And that driveway can fit about 3 cars.
You know,
What?
I'm just,
about the overflow.
in the facility,
I've read a lot of the
We're
residents.
doing they're doing sidewalks in front of the building.
Right, I'm just wondering, because many of the residents have expressed concern about this issue, the residents of Mill Street who state that already parking can be a problem without.
But see, that's the whole thing. I don't see how parking, because that's what, I know what you read. But the truth of the matter is, every house on Mill Street now,
Yeah,
out this project,
uh,
has a driveway. And they have a backyard. And
right,
that driveway can hold approximately 2 to 3 cars. Plus the in front of them, right?
right.
So I know what you read, I know what I read, but I know what I saw too. So it kind of, I wonder why is there a problem? Because every house has a driveway. You know, I don't have it. I'm not talking to you right now, sir. Okay, I'm not asking you for your.
Okay, you're not gonna do that.
Okay, we're not gonna do that.
That's all.
Okay, thank you.
You're not gonna do that. You're not doing it.
All right.
Okay, so I'm just, saying, because I went down there. Okay, so, can you address that?
Sure, so at that point, it becomes a management issue. Right, and that's our responsibility.
Can you talk louder, Sean? I didn't hear you.
Sure, at that point, it becomes a management issue, and that's our responsibility as a manager. I don't foresee that happening. We have 70-75 unit developments with 30-35 parking spaces, and anytime I stop in and visit there, there's always parking. So I don't see that happening, but if it does happen, that becomes a management issue.
So can
If
you
someone
explain
has,
what that means? Do you give out permits? Could we make a condition that you have to give out permits?
I would see no need to do that. I'd be happy to do that down the road. I think we have one project that we don't have permits, we just have resident because it's a mixed use and commercial on like a Thursday or Friday night, it can get very busy. But beyond that, it becomes like a policing nightmare. It's more about convenience where someone wants a parking spot right up against the building as opposed to.
But when you say management issue, what are you saying?
It's on us, right? If someone's parking in the street illegally, parking somewhere else illegally, that's on us as the manager to enforce our lease with them. And either they have too many cars and they need to either move or reduce the number of cars.
Can I ask you a question? Does anyone that has a car that parks in your lot, do they have to be registered?
If someone has a car, yeah, management will have. like-
So you'll know how many residents have cars?
Yeah, we never looked into this issue.
Yeah, perhaps.
So
Yeah.
we're playing out hypotheticals, but we have a lot of developments with much less than 1 parking space per unit. And we haven't had this issue. The only issue we have is where we have restaurants on the first floor and on Thursday or Friday night. Parking can get difficult when people are coming back.
I'm just taking the residents at their word, and it does seem to be a unique location, right? That it's a dead end street and it's very narrow. So, and it's not in the center of a city where there's a block here and a block there and a block there. So I'm just taking residents at their word that there's already a parking issue. And so I'm just wondering, yeah, how the conversation works, if the city gets involved at any point. But you're saying it would just be on you.
Yeah, I mean, if
it would be
it's
in
off
the
our site, it
Mhm.
would be law enforcement.
Mhm.
If it's on our site, that's management. And if it's law enforcement, it's gonna end up with management anyway.
And sorry, how many spots are for guest parking?
We just have 57, we don't designate, is there? So the parking study looked at the units, the manager, and just average demand of the parking spaces for them. and their units.
No, I wonder though, you do have that line in the front, you have the grass there in the parking lot. How much space is it between the edge of the grass and the first painted spot? The width of that, width of that.
You talking about here?
Yeah, it's, the grass, from the street,
Here to here,
yeah,
well, this area is taken up by the drainage channel.
no, I understand, but that's in the grass.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's-
it's grass, it's not paved.
So remove that when we go back to the first,
They didn't draw the ditch in the rendering.
so
Got the receptor planting, but it's.
right there where you see the edge, you see the, exactly, that line there. How much space is between that and the car and the?
How many feet?
Oh, you mean the driveway?
Yeah, drive.
Well, so that's,
So we have our turning radius for the fire truck.
it's probably about 24 to 26 feet, which is needed for the fire trucks to turn through the site. But it has, we can't narrow that anymore.
No, I was just curious.
Okay,
And just say you couldn't allow somebody to park there, because then if there was emergency, that's really a fire.
If someone's parking where, you know.
And like, let's say if they were.
Parking space, yeah,
for some reason.
That's on us.
Okay.
but people do park on the other side now,
No, this is still will be on their property.
okay.
So I guess regardless of the situation on Mill Street, we're not going to be contributing to that problem because.
Talk up.
Right, regardless of the current parking condition on Mill Street. Our parking analysis and study, looking at comparable developments. We're satisfying our parking need on our site. And based on our experience with our developments throughout the Hudson Valley, we're providing more than what we need on our site.
But Hudson residents are parties. No,
So are you actually making condition of the renter or affordable housing that there's only one car per household is there a limit?
Only if it becomes an issue. And we haven't had that happen yet.
Can you speak to the mitigation of water and flood?
Sure. I mean, I can, but Amy can speak.
Well, what?
So, like Sean said, we've provided a very detailed, several very detailed reports that talks about flooding and mitigation. And there's really two issues here. One is the runoff that's produced by the site itself. And the other is the runoff that's being conveyed through the site from upstream.
Right.
So what we've looked at here, these are two maps from our stormwater pollution prevention plan that we prepared and kind of show you, kind of explain it. So the flow coming through the site, which our drainage channel has been designed to convey, is coming through the site. This is what it would look like. This is what it is now.
Current condition.
Current condition.
What is the green, is the green?
The green is the area that we've studied.
It's just the area.
For the runoff produced by the site. So let me start with that. The green area, what we do with a stormwater pollution prevention plan is we look at how much water is generated by the site now.
Right.
And then after development, when we have new impervious surfaces like rooftops, pavement, stuff like that.
Right.
So based on, we look at the same area before and after. And based on existing conditions, we identified that the site produces 27 cubic feet per second during the 100-year storm.
Okay.
After development, it's a little hard, it might be a little hard to read, I probably should use a different color, but after development, we have the same area. And then we also have a sub area that's a little bit darker green here. This is the area that's been developed with impervious surfaces. And which is directed to our underground detention system.
So underneath your whole parking area is virtually a water detention system.
Correct. Okay. Basically pipes under the ground to hold the water.
Okay.
All of the runoff that's produced by the developed part of the site
is directed to these chambers. And based on the design of these chambers, it releases the water slowly over time. So that the runoff at the same point as here is the same or less. And we've designed it to be that way so that it doesn't cause any impacts. Now, the blue line is the offsite runoff, which was the primary focus of our most recent memo to the department that you just reviewed for us. Basically, what we've shown is that the current, right now, there's about 92 cubic feet of cubic feet per second of flow that comes through that site during a 100-year storm. The water flows to the existing pipes. It backs up, overflows around the end of Third Street and flows into the site. And the same flow rate at the other side of the site, right? There's no change necessarily on that flow rate. The proposed conditions, we have designed the stream channel to convey the same amount of flow. You know, when it flows through the site now, it's wider and shallow. Going through the channel, it's obviously deeper because it's a little narrower. But overall, the flow rate is the same and the travel time is the same, or roughly the same. Which, in effect, shows that we're not causing any changes to the flooding downstream.
I don't understand then how that's solving the current flooding issue if the numbers remain the same.
We're
No.
not solving, nothing you do at this site will solve. the
So
current
it'll
flooding.
continue to flood?
The corner of Second and Mill Street.
No, I mean, that whole field, I've seen it filled with water.
Sure, so yeah, that is going through a stream channel here. We have a dry basin and then a connection into the city's storm system. But the flooding condition on neighboring properties, we can't solve with our site and we're not proposing. We're just showing that by developing the site, we're not making that condition worse for any of the neighboring properties.
But by developing the site, it's not gonna flood on the site, is it?
No.
It's still gonna flood on the site.
Yeah,
Like what we saw.
Will not flow, so.
And what are you doing to stop that? What are you putting there?
Right, so the flooding of the site, we're based on the floodplain elevation, the flood maps produced by FEMA. You can see this dark line here. This is where the flooding is expected to occur. It's also here. So the flood elevation is at 11.3.
Okay.
Our site has been constructed to have the floor elevation of these buildings is at 20. So we're over 8 feet above the flood elevation, so our site will not flood.
I'm sorry, I'm a real layperson, I don't even know what I'm doing up here. Can you break this down for me? So that line is the flood line?
This is during the 100-year storm, FEMA produces maps that shows where the 100-year flood elevation will be, the edge of the water. That's what this line is here. It's repeated here, it's a little harder to see. The elevation of this line, where the water meets the ground, is at 11.3 feet above sea level. What I'm saying is that we're building this site to be 20 feet above sea level, because that's aligned with the road. That's what the elevation of the road is now.
So when the road floods, it doesn't flood,
It does not flood here, it floods down here at the.
but I've seen photographs of it flooded very
Right,
badly
that's
right
from
there.
the water flowing around.
Where this culvert is, there's too much flow for that culvert to handle it and overflow.
But you're gonna change
Comes
that, right?
across to the road and we're building a channel to try to capture as much of that right at that. culvert.
But between the channel and your detention, your water detention system, that there'll be less water on the road by those houses, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
No, it's gonna,
That's
it's
what
gonna
the
be the
same
same amount, there's not gonna be no change.
Okay.
yeah, I don't think there's anything.
They're not going to change the flooding.
They're just showing you they're not gonna make it any worse. Wait a minute, let our consultants,
The flooding that's occurring down on Mill Street and Second is not gonna change. There's nothing that they can do on.
At the intersection.
At the intersection. So it's always gonna flood.
Right.
It floods today, and a 100-year storm is gonna flood tomorrow, 100-year storm. Nothing they're doing is going to fix that.
But they're not gonna
They're
add
not
any
going to
flooding to the,
contribute to that flooding and make it worse
right,
with this project.
right, so the houses across the street are not gonna flood.
Correct. And they are making improvements to where that culvert floods and goes into the road. They've added catch basins. increase the pipe sizes down there to get more of that water into that channel, that stream flow that they're showing on the bottom. So more of that water will go through there. And part of the problem out there is that 24 inch is backing it up down north of this or east of the site. And it's filling up to an elevation over and cresting into the road as some of those pictures showed. So they're gonna eliminate that by the improvements they're doing down at that intersection. It's gonna flow into that channel and down rather than flow out into the road.
Now, is that true? Cause you guys need to say that.
Right? We need you to, we know what we got
We
in
are
the
making
letter.
improvements. I can't guarantee that it will all go away, but we are making improvements to the flooding at the
But-
intersection.
If that's true, I'm sorry, if I followed you the way I think I did, if that was true, what you just said, if this was going to be improved, then wouldn't that number change? If it's coming in at 92 and if it's gonna be improved?
It actually might make it better. Cause you're not backing all that stormwater up and holding it up. Instead, you're releasing it.
But if that's true, why is it at less cubic feet per second, thank you, at the other end?
Cause it's the same amount of water going through it.
I thought you just said it was gonna be made better.
They're improving it so it doesn't go into the road. They've got catch basins up there. You want to do the plan?
What,
So
please,
where will it go?
please
In that channel.
explain.
The channel, okay.
Yeah.
These guys need to tell us about that.
So you're saying a lower, you're saying a lower number, a lower number at the end of the channel would indicate that the water is being detained somewhere.
Water's currently being detained.
The water is currently being
No,
detained.
in the present condition.
In the present condition, the water is currently being detained behind Third Street.
Right.
Right, which is why the water is going over the embankment. So what we're doing is that by,
Okay, what area are we talking about?
this
That's
is
the
Third
corner.
Street, this is Third Street, this is the existing culvert.
Yeah.
What we're doing, we don't want to cause that water to be released, because that could cause increase in flow downstream. So we want to keep this pipe. But what we're doing is we're providing an additional catch basin, we're providing additional catch basins here to help minimize the water
And get into the
crossing Third Street. It gets it into the channel, so it doesn't go over the road.
Yep.
So, I'm sorry, I have so many questions because I'm just trying to catch up. When Mill Street floods, and perhaps this is a question for residents, there are 11 residential buildings that I'm assuming are inaccessible when the flooding is very bad. So what happens when there are another 70 units that can't be accessed because of the flooding?
Yeah, so do you want to answer? I mean, we spoke to people, so during Irene and Ike, when it was, I think, at some points over the 500-year flood or rainfall. Based on DPW, when the intersection of Second and Mill Street floods, it does so about 12 inches. So it's not a concern for most vehicles, it's definitely not a concern for emergency vehicles. And they said it usually dissipates within a matter of hours.
Okay,
So there is a temporary problem, but it's not isolating.
I see.
And like you said before, worst case scenario, if the emergency vehicles can't pass through Mill and Second. The trail is designed to accommodate vehicles if needed.
I mean, I don't foresee a need for that.
Right,
Emergency vehicle, something.
right.
right.
They have to keep residents.
One more question related to flooding. This is probably a planning board question. If, with the best intentions, somebody gets this wrong and the flooding does get worse and impacts the residential buildings down on Mill Street, who is held liable? The city of Hudson, the planning board, you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing is flooding could get worse, right? If the storms get worse, unrelated to us developments. We're providing data based on 100-year storm events, showing the flows, showing historical flows, showing coming in our site and out of our site. So based on our design, so that information can't change. The only thing that can change is the volume of water can increase either uphill or just through rainfall in the surrounding areas. Our design, there's not really room for like interpretation. But the flow can certainly change down the road, in a higher storm event. I don't think there's liability from anyone's fault if a storm beyond 500 years happens.
Or if something, a pipe, I mean. You're saying there's no room for interpretation, but there is human error and like mechanical error, right? I mean, it could be that. This huge new development requires those buildings. I'm just curious, like. If this is approved, is the city of Hudson on the hook for that?
Not if something goes wrong with the development, no. I would
And
think not.
impacts. Housing down, down the road.
Well, legal advice, we can go into an attorney-client session.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I would think not. I think if there's something goes wrong, like any development in Hudson, and we have quite a few of them now.
Mhm.
If we was try and hold them responsible, if we can find out if it's their problem, if it's problem held by them. I mean, we've got a lot of things going on in Hudson. And it is a concern not only for this project, but a lot of projects.
Mhm.
Your project costed how much?
About 20 million.
So I'm assuming that you believe that your $20 million investment is being properly safeguarded with the engineering that you're doing, with the engineering that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, part of we own this and manage this, we're guaranteeing a lot of money, we're borrowing money. We'll be on the hook for that money for the next 30 years. A new loan, we'll be on the hook for another 30. So we wouldn't be doing that if there's a risk to this site or we're not comfortable with the development plans.
And like I said,
We own
a lot of
this.
things going on.
And Christian, as an engineer, you feel comfortable with the.
They've addressed the concerns.
Those investments.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, we have a lot of things going on in Hudson. This is not the only building. If something goes wrong,
Well, if something goes wrong with any project, that's right, then, it's.
that Gabby will be questions.
I'm sure I do.
Okay, any more questions from the board?
I do, sorry, I do have a couple more questions, if nobody else does, I'm just trying to catch up on the legality of all of this, it seems like, has the deed been transferred?
Okay, that's.
Oh, she's asking
Oh,
us
shit.
again.
Okay.
Has the deed been transferred to us? No. It's
No.
the city.
Okay. Is that normal to be like this far into a,
So, the ownership, so we have lots of applications sometimes where someone is proposing development on someone else's land. And we don't even review it unless the owner signs off on it. So in this case, the owner of the property has co-signed the application, giving them authority to act as their agent. So that's okay and that's normal. We don't, you know, it's between them and the owner about whether they're allowed to build it or not, ultimately.
right, I'm just wondering as the responsibility of the planning board, if approving an application where it seems like the deed, the legality of the deed is in question. Again, it seems like if it's our duty to, you know, look at this application responsibly and the
When you say
deed.
the deed, ownership, when you review a site plan, I mean, we wanna make sure the owner has authorized it, but we're reviewing the use of land, we don't really care about the owner. Right, cause the impacts are the same no matter who owns it.
Oh, but I guess I'm confused about the argument about the parkland protection, so it is about the use of land, right?
Okay, oh, you're talking about, the deed restriction.
Right, like,
Okay,
who
so then-
legally owns this piece of property?
So we do understand that there's a deed restriction, so. There's actually a lot of properties, that have deed restrictions on them.
Mhm.
And it's a general rule that planning boards don't enforce private deed restrictions. So if there is a restriction, there's old restrictions going back that say like, you can't have a saloon on this property, or certain types of people can't live on this property. It can only be owned by a woman, and some of them are deemed unenforceable, some of them are not, but it's not the planning board's job to enforce them. All the planning board is tasked with is looking at the land and its compliance with the zoning law. If there is a restriction on the property, that's again up to the owner and the people that can enforce that restriction to enforce it. That's not an issue that's before this board.
But isn't it also the responsibility of the planning board to protect the welfare and well-being and health of the community? And if there's an issue over parkland use, I guess seems to
So the planning board's role is to implement the zoning law, which gets adopted by the common council. And so you're working within the confines of the zoning law. The common council has made a determination that, you know, allowing certain uses in certain districts at certain heights and certain densities is within the public benefit. That was their determination. So you're just here really to implement that. So, you know, as far as we know, the record doesn't have anything in it that says that this is dedicated parkland. But that's an issue for, you know, that's an issue for the common council who's going to be conveying this land.
Okay, my last question, what, the fourth floor variance, what is the purpose of the fourth floor? Just more units and the variance is?
Sure, so, it's basically the interpretation of the code, right? We should be looking at the average building height, based on any of the right of ways, whether improved or not. But there's determination made that even though this side is 3 stories, this side is 3 stories, this side is 4, it'll be deemed 4 stories. So we were going to the zoning board, but there's a provision that apparently has never been used in the city of Hudson code, that if this affordable housing is made affordable in perpetuity, to allow density bonus of additional. So instead of pursuing the variance, we opted, instead of a 50-year regulatory agreement, which is normal for our type of housing, we made it affordable housing.
So can we just go back to your other comment about the public welfare? So you're working within the zoning law, but then within those confines, you do have discretion when it comes to things where you have to make findings about if something's in the public interest, or if something's gonna have an environmental impact. I mean, there are places where you bring that kind of analysis in. But it's where the code calls for that kind of analysis.
And yeah, I sent some training, online training. I sent it out yesterday. Did anybody get it? Did everybody get it?
Yeah.
And I think one of your questions that answered it right there is the duties and responsibilities of the planning board.
Oh, yeah, no, I've read, I mean, I don't
No,
think I'm
it's-
getting
it's-
that part wrong, right? That
No,
helps
it's,
safety and welfare.
it kind of goes into depth about everything, you know, so I'm just mentioning.
Yeah,
Okay, and it's online, you just do it at your own house, you don't have to go out. It's not what we're gonna do next month.
but yes.
But the flooding issue is an issue that's before you, whether this can be developed properly.
Yeah.
Without impacting the neighbors.
And the use of the land, right?
Well, that issue, in my opinion, whether it's any kind of restriction, that is not an issue before this board. That's an issue for another board.
Oh, okay.
You okay? Good? Any more
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah. Will I get to ask more questions after the public statement?
You can, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions from anyone else in the room? Okay, now we're gonna go to the public, Dr. When you have the names?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna call your name. When we call your name, you get 3 minutes.
And forgive me, I don't wanna butcher the names, I'll do the best I can, some I can make out your
And Jean
writing.
will tell you.
And
Jean
some
is
I
the
can't.
timekeeper. Jean is the timekeeper.
It looks like the first person's name is Adolfo, is it Lopez or Luper?
It's Lopez.
It's Lopez, okay.
Good evening. My name is Adolfo Lopez, and I serve this city by working directly with individuals, children, and families. We're trying to stay rooted in Hudson, even while the ground keeps shifting beneath them. I'm here in strong support of the Mill Street project, not because it's perfect, things rarely ever are, but because it's necessary. This is one of the few opportunities we have to use city-owned land for real affordable housing for people who are already part of this community, or for the many children and families formerly a part of this community who have been displaced. As someone who has worked with underserved residents in the city for nearly a decade, and specifically with our unhoused population on the county's multidisciplinary team, I can speak to the accuracy of the displacement and homeless crisis facing our city. Currently, our homeless population is nearing 100 people. Predominantly, the Department of Social Services houses our unhoused population in partnering motels, which there are currently 0 available rooms in Columbia County and only one room available to us in Rensselaer County. This paints a harrowing picture of the reality that faces many who used to call this city home for generations. It seems like some residents are choosing between building housing or leaving people behind to live in our local parks, which isn't exactly looking out for health, public welfare, and well-being of all of our residents, especially the most vulnerable, even when there is a very, in my opinion, reasonable solution present. The crisis here isn't gentle, the displacement isn't gentle, so our response cannot be gentle either. Hudson can build responsibly, and we should, but let's not confuse stylistic preference for structural, equitable justice. We don't need more design theory, we don't need more conversations about preserving neighborhood character when the semblance of neighborhood is being suffocated and made further exclusive. We need action. I urge this board to move forward with courage, not solely for the people who are already housed in the city, but for the people still yearning to belong to a once inclusive and responsive neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on the rules, we said no clapping, so could you refrain from clapping? Thank you so much.
The next person would be Brian McCosmic. It looks like an S and not an S.
Register never got it ready. I appreciate it.
Is it McCormick or?
McCormack, yeah.
Okay, I made more sense, but it looked like an S, so.
I
okay.
appreciate you, thank you. My name is Brian McCormick. I'm one of the co-founders and co-executive directors of Columbia County Sanctuary Movement. We support immigrant residents of Columbia County in a variety of ways and services. And today I'm here to speak in favor of the Mill Street project. Our membership is systemically excluded from most of the safety net services that people can receive in this area. That means most of social services, it means Section 8 housing. And this is an opportunity for our community to have access to affordable housing in a way that they never have before. Our community is a vibrant community and is responsible for a lot of the vitality that Hudson currently holds, as well as the economy. They have rebuilt the city, they clean the city, they serve the city in all of the service industry, and they are excluded from living here. They moved to surrounding areas similar to many of the longstanding generations that have been here who have called Hudson home. And we need to find ways for both our historic populations and our newcomers to have access to affordable housing. And I believe that this is one of the ways that we can do so. So for that reason, I'm in support of this project.
Thank you. The next person is Jennifer Belton.
Hi, I just wanted to say that two truths can exist at once. And one of those truths for me is that I want affordable housing. And I like this project, but I don't like it where it is because of this. Because of the flooding. That's what it looks like down there. So my concern has always been that this project will affect the people who already live there and force water away from the site into their homes. Teresa, maybe three meetings ago, you said that Hudson would be, or the city would be responsible for mitigating the water down there.
I said,
You did. And they're not going to do anything to make the situation worse, but they're
No.
not making it better either. So since this situation is this already, I'm really concerned that we're gonna have unhoused people because of flooding.
Where's
There's
that picture? Where is that?
Where is this
Yeah, where
picture?
is that on the,
This
is that on
is
the
the
intersection?
property that they are.
That's at
going
the
to build.
property, not at the
Yes.
intersection.
Not at the intersection.
Just explain that.
So the pipes that lead away from that site narrow at Second Street. In order for us to mitigate that or stop the water from coming down the hills, it would be millions and millions of dollars. And because we are a kind city and we are a sanctuary city, we will not be getting grant funding.
Okay, do you guys want to?
There are other places you can build. There's lots of empty space and these are dry.
They're gonna respond to the flooding.
Right, so like I said before, you know, the water that you're showing there, we are providing additional catch basins, we want that water to back up so that it doesn't increase flow downstream, which would cause additional flooding at intersections. We've designed the channel to convey all that water, assuming it's a 100-year storm or less, through this channel. And it will convey the water through the site. It will have no effect on these properties that are across the street, that are not within the flood.
Climate change is real,
Well,
and 100-year storm, we've already seen, this isn't even a 100-year storm, this was December of 23. That somebody sent me. And the last time I was down there, I was ankle deep in water. And that was only a few weeks ago.
That was Hurricane Irene.
This wasn't, this was,
No.
December.
Okay, so I thought that, they had addressed that. I mean, and we have a letter from our consultant that the city pays for us to look into that.
Yeah, and I had our flood consultants look at the analysis.
When I asked DPW at the last informal meeting what we could do to help mitigate the water, he said we need another study, which would be thousands of dollars, would take a lot of time, and we'd have to start trying to stop the water from above. So meaning build dams, or I don't know what he was talking about, how you would actually do that.
Okay, so you don't know what he was talking about.
There's a lot of water coming from three different
27.
directions there. It was Rob Perry.
No, you have 20 more seconds.
Oh, 20 more seconds. Don't build the floodplain.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next person is Claire Cousins.
Great. Hi, just got back. My take on Mill Street and my opinion is obviously we need affordable housing. I'm not sure who spoke before me. I don't want to be repetitive. But when we were considering habitat housing being built in this area, this concern wasn't as loud. I think that that's prevalent and relevant in this conversation. I also think if we're gonna consider what quality of life means, let's ask the people that are saying they don't want these folks to move down here, or they don't want new housing. Is your quality of life bad in this area? That's a question that I have that lives rent free in my head. This is all opinion, but we need affordable housing. I think the developers are doing a great job at expressing what can be done, how they plan to mitigate some of the concerns that you brought forward. And I just think this project needs to move forward.
Thank you.
Now, I'm looking is either a T or a J, but I'm gonna say Tanya Jackson.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna repeat either. My name is Tanya Jackson. I am the executive director of the Hudson Catskill Housing Coalition. And I am here in support of the Mill Street project. In addition to what has been said by supporters, I think what comes up for me, particularly in the constant flooding and transportation concerns, has to do with the fact that this neighborhood, this area in the second ward has a history of having disinvestment, industrial concerns. All of these things are not new. And the folks who have lived there for generations have had to navigate these things while welcoming new people to the neighborhood, who they've had to make space for other people. And I think it's a shame that when it's time to make more space for folks who've already put so much to building the city, that there's all of these concerns around the flooding and the transportation, which in a small city like Hudson, we have the ability to address those concerns. And so to keep harping on them seems like a distraction from the fact that people are not looking at the human cost of not moving forward with this project. It has been shared several times. I've been to several of these meetings, and statistics around the homelessness should be striking to all of us.
And there's without a breath, people responding with, well, what about the flooding? Someone will bring up the homelessness population, the displacement population, and then in the same breath, someone will bring up parking. As though those things should be equated with safety for people in housing. We want families to be secure, we want the next generation of children to be secure, and if the inability to move with the fact that we need affordable housing is not addressed now, then the city is being two-faced about what it considers a community. And I really think that we really need to consider what we say when we mean community and who gets to be here. And, you know, Mill Street, I understand from my research, Claire mentioned that Habitat for Humanity is what helped that neighborhood become residential. That was an affordable housing project. So why is it now that we want to expand that affordable housing to more people? Is that an issue? I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. And so I just want to underscore those things. I want us to really consider, I understand wanting to keep character of a place, but this is not just an opportunity, it's a responsibility. And we need to be able to take this responsibility under the sheer urgency of the moment. This is an urgent moment.
20 seconds.
And so I just really want to underscore those things. Let's not get trapped in time, but let's move with the needs of our future.
Now this is going to be an interesting game, forgive me.
The radar.
Oh, thank you.
You must have had a problem with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll save you the agony.
Hello, my name is Dewato Salmon, and I'm a community organizer with Columbia County Sanctuary Movement, and I want to speak on behalf of, in support of Mill Street. I lived in Hudson growing up as a child in my teenage years. I mean, I'm also not a native of Hudson, I moved here. And I grew up with a lot of folks that are natives, a lot of people that I went to school with, and I'm watching them being pushed out of this community. I'm watching them not being able to actually live within the city of Hudson. When I do my organizing calls, I'm calling people and I'm telling them, hey, come to City Hall, we're fighting for housing justice, but they don't feel like it matters. To them, they don't live in Hudson proper, right? So anything that you guys pass right now, they don't feel like it's for them. So I'm hoping that this, if you guys pass this project, that our community, not just immigrant communities, and it's like Brian said, our immigrant communities do not have access to social services. They do not have access to housing, right? So we have to find other ways for them to be able to access affordable housing. With everything going on in the attacks of all our governmental agencies, it's not just gonna be immigrants and low income people that are gonna be looking for housing. This is gonna get critical. So I think Hudson's always been one of the towns for first, right? Like we were one of the first towns in the area that had a sanctuary city that really supports the community. So I think we really need, as Hudson natives, like I know there's concerns, I think we can come together and figure out the concerns. Everybody, it sounds like to me in this meeting, wants affordable housing to happen. It's just figuring out the nuts and bolts of it. And that should not be a point of contention to stop this project from moving forward. Thank you. Thank you. Kia Walker.
With Walker, Mill Street. This development is being sold to the community on the idea that it's gonna be affordable housing. But the term affordable housing has not yet been clearly defined. The term affordable housing is often used broadly but lacks a standardized definition. According to the US Department of Housing and Urban Development, affordable housing is housing where occupants pay no more than 30% of their gross income for housing costs, including utilities. However, this general guideline does not specify income thresholds or unit allocations, which can vary significantly. People in the community should be aware that affordable housing is not the same as low-income housing. Even though affordable housing programs take housing voucher programs such as Section 8 and public assistance, affordable housing is usually determined by a percentage of the median income level in an area, which for the city of Hudson is quite high. This is a concern because there hasn't been anything in writing to show the community what the affordable housing plan looks like and who will be eligible. The Hudson Depot Loft is a perfect example of city officials promoting a huge affordable housing initiative with community support to just become something other than what it was promised. So there's questions that are still unclear that should be answered and discussed, and I have a few. What is the breakdown of this broad definition of affordable housing? Will all 70 units be affordable, or will there be a designated number of units? Regarding income, what are the specific income thresholds for each unit? For example, is there a maximum allowable income for one bedroom unit? Is there a minimum income? Unit allocations, how many units are gonna be designated for each income category? How many for the 30%, 50%, 80%, and the AMI? Rent levels, will there be rent for each unit type, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms, and how do these prices compare to local market rate? Eligibility criteria, besides income, are there other eligibility requirements for these apartments? For example, employment status, family size, credit check, or background checks, or I guess the homeless? Application process, do tenants hear about how do tenants hear about the building and how will they apply? Will current residents of Hudson have priority over out-of-towners? Long-term affordability, what mechanisms are in place to ensure that these units remain affordable over time? Is there a contract with long-term, what term limits in place? These are all valuable questions that should be considered with any developer that promotes affordable housing to a city that is desperate for housing, and the city has not clearly explained. And with these answers to these questions answered, we must also look at who is this development for families, young single workers, or seniors. Finally, I'd like to close by sharing that the residents of Mill Street only learned about this project after it was reported by the Register Star. A few days later, the mayor came down to meet with the residents to gather input from the neighborhood. We shared our opinions, concerns, and thoughts to only see that the concerns were dismissed.
Time's
With
up.
a project this size, it was determined.
Time is up. Time is up, I'm sorry.
I just have one, I just want to finish this one sentence. With a project this size, it was determined that the project of this size and population will have no impact on a narrow dead-end road.
You want to hear the comments?
Yeah.
I can email to you,
Yeah, because, and I'm asking everybody 3 minutes. We gave her more, but that's it. Okay, no, we're gonna give everybody 3 minutes of action, over and over. Cater your speech to 3 minutes, and you could do it. So, do you wanna answer?
You wanna address that?
Do you have an answer?
Yeah,
Yeah, you wanna address that?
sure, so,
Okay, he's gonna address your,
well, there's a lot of questions, so if I miss one, I'll try to circle back.
I think that's.
So what we're proposing is mixed income. So traditional and affordable income, affordable housing, low-income housing, it's pretty ambiguous, right? And it can mean a lot of different things. But what we're proposing is to provide housing for different AMI bands. So we look at Columbia County's area median income, and we're providing housing for individuals and families at 30%, 60%, and then middle income housing all the way up to 100% of Columbia County's median income. So just to give kind of some parameters, for one person, a minimum income would be a little under 24,000. And then on the highest end, at 100%, for one of our 3 bedrooms, 6 people, 2 people per bedroom, the max would be 143,000. So we'll have between 23,000 to 143,000. Of that, the majority of the units are 1 bedrooms, 43, 21 or 2 bedrooms, 6 or 3 bedrooms. We'll have a regulatory agreement.
Oh, no, can you run those numbers back? Sorry. The bedrooms?
We're gonna post them.
Oh.
We'll post them on our website, you have to go on the City of Hudson website, look under planning board, and we have a portal, everything's in there under Mill Street. And we'll have it posted, okay?
Thank you.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, we'll have a regulatory agreement that gets filed with the deed that restricts to the terms that I'm saying that for it, in addition to that, we'll have the deed restriction for the full development perpetuity. I don't know if that answered everything.
And all the units and in perpetuity.
All the units will be under the regulatory agreement and subject to the deed restriction.
If I may, one of her questions, which I also had this question, was who is eligible? Well, you know, there's a lot of very legitimate concern about current Hudson residents or current unhoused Hudson residents, either unhoused or experiencing, you know, severe burden of housing costs. will priority be given to people who are current Hudson residents or people who have recently been pushed out, or is there a lottery?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we can't give a preference legally. Our marketing plan has to get approved by the state. But what happens in every instance is we'll have more applications than we have units. So we'll set a deadline. Anyone can submit an application even after that deadline, but that deadline's for the lottery. And we have a lottery and we assign those randomly generated numbers to each application. And that doesn't mean those individuals who got 1 through 70 are gonna get an application, and we start processing from that point.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a question.
Wait a minute,
We,
we'll get to you.
I'm sorry. Are we going to the next one? So
Yes.
you're going, okay. So the next person is, I see Johnson, it looks like Kevin.
That's me. Thank you. Kevin Johnson, 238 Mill Street, next door to Miss Tia here. And I guess more of anything else, maybe a couple more comments after, but a question for you guys. What is the percentage? I heard you range from this income to this income. What's the percentage that's actually low income or affordable, where it's gonna provide what the concern that's coming from so many people that are for your project is that, oh, here comes some low income housing, affordable housing. How much of it, is it gonna be set up in a percentage basis, or is it just whoever gets what?
Jonathan, ask all your questions, and then after you finish your 3 minutes, they're gonna answer. Is that the only question you have?
For them, yes.
Okay, ask everything. Talk your 3 minutes. What else you have to say? They're gonna answer.
Okay, you stopped others and haven't answered, so I just thought that's what you.
No, I didn't stop. When she finished, I actually addressed it.
I agree with this. This is not a minimal concern. This is not something you can poo-poo just because it's not a concern to you. This is all the time, every time it rains. Not always that much, but the flooding is constant, the field is constantly underwater. And you said yourselves that you were not going to make it better, you just weren't gonna make it any worse. So that's a concern. That's it.
Okay, so you're gonna address the first question.
Sure, so a majority of our units are at 60% of Columbia County's area median income. And we have about 9 units at the 30% and 7 units at the 100% of Columbia County area.
So only 9 units.
At the 30%.
What is
guys.
60%? For
For one person, 60% is about 47,000 this year's median income. That's,
So
that's,
60% of 40.
that's the maximum, so someone can't make over that.
Say that again?
So 60% of Columbia.
No, I know that, the how many units at 60%?
53.
And 9.
53 units. And not, so only 9 units at 30%.
Yep, only 9 at 30, and then we have 10%, 7 units at middle income. We use the middle income housing program. It's supposed to reach the missing middle, people that traditionally make too much for affordable housing. These are for the 7 units.
Right.
Traditionally make too much for affordable housing, but not enough for a straight market rate.
So the total between 60 and 30% is how many? Apartments,
63.
63, okay, fine. And 63 out of a
I'm
total.
sorry, 62, and then we have 1 super unit. So
Okay.
63.
So 62 out of total of how many?
73.
Alright, so, okay. So 60% or below AMI for 62 units.
Right.
How many bedrooms are those 9 units?
Okay, go ahead. You done?
Sure, so,
They have how many?
Somebody just have
Yeah.
a question, how many bedrooms it was?
the 9 units.
Yeah.
So we have 6 are 1 bedrooms, 2 are 2s, 1 is 3.
Next person. Thank you. Thank you.
Nakia McCollum.
All I wanna say is, I approve the project and let's make America great again. Let's make America great again. This is ridiculous.
Okay, so, thank you. I feel like we should be wrapped in a red, white, and blue flag at this point, I'm sorry. Am I saying it right, Eliza Orange?
Yes.
I live at 212 Mill Street. And, I am in support of affordable housing, of course, it's extremely necessary. But for me, my main concern is the flooding, just because as it is, it's very wet down there. And even, I think last week it was raining the whole week. And we have like an irrigation sort of area set up. My home is diagonal to this project. And so any runoff water is going directly into my property. And there's a little runoff to catch that water at the moment, but it often gets clogged. And it almost floods all the time. So it just makes it very real concern.
Brian V. Bosberg, thank you.
Hi, I'll be brief, I'll be shorter than 3 minutes. I reside on Mill Street, I've owned the property for 21 years. And based upon current conditions, it seems like we get a lot more water than we ever have in the past. My house wasn't originally designated part of the floodplain, and they changed the district thing where half of my house is considered part of the floodplain. And I've seen tremendous changes where I have flooding in my basement now where I never had it. But I'm all for and supportive of affordable housing. For me, the spot just seems like we're trying to squeeze an awful lot into a very tight space, but in terms of displacement of the water, if you're adding a lot of cubic yards of fill and building it up, the displacement of the water, I feel, is gonna continue up this way. So the flooding where Josh has a picture of the flooding,
That's my house.
It's been so deep where I own a truck, I couldn't drive through it because based upon the water that comes through, it also brings debris and logs and stuff of that sort. So my only concern is based upon the size of the project and the footprint of the blacktop, water has no place to go. Even though you're doing piping and things, it seems like it's a new, I mean, there's a probability that things might not work out well. So my concern would be, well, what recourse do I have if my house really floods and all the neighboring houses on that street based upon a project the magnitude that you're proposing? That would be my concern, because it seems, 10 years ago we had rain, but it doesn't seem like we've had water issues like we do now. And that would be my concern.
What's your house number?
218. And I was there before Habitat for Humanity or anything was built there.
Was it flooding there?
It was wet, the ball field was always wet, it was, you'd never really walk or drive on it, but since I've been there, it seems like now it's basically a pond if we get a lot of rain.
And I think they explained that one. That's good.
Yeah, that's my concern, if you're adding, like you said, blue tops and black tops.
I mean, you explained it once.
Yeah, make it louder.
Yeah, make it
A
louder.
little bit more louder, because you got a nice, gentle voice.
Step over here.
Okay, we're gonna, they're gonna explain again. Hello. Okay, on the end, okay. All right, next, we're gonna Brittany's gonna do something again to explain to you, to answer you both of your questions. Okay.
So
Now or
Later.
we're doing it later. After the hearing.
so now I finally made out this handwriting. Alan Weaver.
That's me, resident of the fourth ward. I have a question for the developers. You did a parking study of your developments, correct? And how many of those developments are located down a dead end road in a small town?
Okay, is that the only question you have?
No, that's
Okay,
not.
ask
I'd
all,
like to
no,
know. All they have to
we
say,
run this. You
Teresa,
ask
all
all
they
the
have to say
questions,
is the number of
ask
developments.
all the questions first, get your
Okay.
3 minutes, and then they'll answer.
Also, as the Hudson Housing Authority, that's 132 units, 20 to 25 of those units are probably uninhabitable. So parking is plenty there now because it's not full. Hudson has several other suitable sites for this, such as 4th and State, which you guys have proposed a project for. There is 604 Washington Street, which is nice and high, it's right next to Oakdale, and it's near social services. Perfect site for low-income housing. There is State and Front Street, HCBPA owns the site, right next to Kite's Nest. Kite's about the housing situation in Hudson. So there's lots of alternative sites where this could be built. So I don't understand why the urgency to build this in a floodplain.
Is that all?
No, make it go.
You
People
got,
keep saying,
you got 2 minutes.
people keep harping on that Habitat for Humanity built houses down there. Well, they didn't build 70 houses down there. They built 11. Okay, so there's a big difference between what Habitat for Humanity did on Wall Street and what Kearney is proposing. I'm all for low income housing. I was on the housing board of the Hudson Authority for 4.5 years. So I know what the problem is, but I live in the 4th Ward. That's a horrible location. I said last time, it's a lousy location, shouldn't be built there. We got lots of other sites in the city that would be perfect for low income housing of that density. So, okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, they're gonna answer all the questions, you're writing them down, okay? Okay, good.
Josh,
Kip.
Good evening, planning board. My name is Josh Kipp and I live at 230 Mill Street. As this is our final chance to speak, I urge you to reject the 70-unit housing project in Charles Williams Ballfield. This development highly risks flooding our homes, violating a deed, and stems from Mayor Kamal Johnson's pressuring the school district to break a promise. In 1983, the school district sold the land to the city with a forever recreational clause. Kamal Johnson's push to remove this reverter reported in 2023 betrays 40 years of trust. The ball field in a FEMA floodplain shields our homes across Mill Street as a natural catch basin. I was told you were all shown photos at a previous meeting. I should have deleted that line. These types of storms are not once in a lifetime anymore. As you all know, global warming is real. Filling this field will flood our properties, spiking insurance and repair costs, and God forbid, costing lives. The environmental review demands scrutiny, but we all know this was given minimal importance, as most of you were asking one another which boxes to check when it came time to fill out the secret form. I ask you all to use a little common sense on this matter. Keep in mind, a rush review invites an Article 78 challenge. Besides the flooding, Mill Street's narrow dead end can't handle 70 more households, risking safety. The park, slated to be revitalized soon, is already going to have a severe impact on traffic, parking, and children's safety. Find a safer housing site, save our homes and trust. Thank you. I do have a couple of questions though. Do we know the impact of the sewage leak that's been leaking for the past 2 years from Third?
Ask all your questions, we're not gonna answer them.
Okay, do we have any info on the sewage leak that inundated the property over the past 2 years? It was recently attempted to be fixed by DPW about a month ago.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I go once more?
Still got it.
Your trough that you're proposing, can anyone imagine what that flow of water is gonna be in a narrow little ditch? Kids will drown in it. You gotta use your heads a little bit. I'm sorry to put it that way. But
Thank you. Next.
okay, the last person I see on this list is Jaden Cross.
How's it going? My name is Jaden Cross. I'm 23 years old. First, I just want to say thank you guys for allowing the space and time to have this issue to be fully elaborated and spoken on. Some issues like the chicken guy might not need all the time in the world, but things like this where it genuinely impacts people's lives, I can see why you need that space. Some of the things that I heard when I was listening to the concerns of this was commodities and in particularly like quality of life. And that concept to me, I think about like you can't have quality of life if you don't have life in general. And there's a lot of people who are being displaced, as we know. There's people who aren't able to work and live within the city guidelines. And so for me, I agree with this project on the basis of adding a higher quality of life, on the basis of at least there's life in general, and at least these people are able to move and continue what they're doing in life. Thank you.
Oh, my questions weren't answered after I asked them.
No, they're gonna be answered today.
Josh, we're waiting, they're all gonna be answered.
Any more questions from the public of people that did not sign up?
I did not turn.
Any more, and besides you, Mark, anybody else, we're gonna have to call on after? Okay, you, and then one, okay, so we got a couple of people.
It's very brief. You've heard about
Okay, so what's your name?
Margaret Morris, first ward, council member, first ward. We've heard a lot tonight about flooding, and this came up in a previous meeting, and I don't want us to lose track of it. It's not just that if everything worked out and you're not gonna make it any worse, Mill Street floods, you're going to have and when it floods, cars cannot go down Mill Street.
Amen.
This gentleman in his truck can't get out when it floods. You're gonna have 70 families who will not be able to get out of Mill Street when it floods, and it floods frequently. That was brought up before. Yes, there's a plan for emergency vehicles, but that's not gonna be any help to the 70 families living in that building. And it was discussed in a previous meeting. I just want to make sure that we all remember that.
Thank you. Wait, it was Lloyd. What?
We're just gonna have you.
Lloyd, what's your name?
Lloyd Alden, Vice President Kenny, your voice of reason and now voice of the people. So I just have one question, Teresa. How does this check out with the comprehensive 2035 plan the city has got? That's all I gotta say.
Okay, that's a question.
What does that mean?
That's it. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Janessa and I've been living in Hudson my whole life.
Lloyd, put your name down, please.
Huh?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry for interrupting.
So I see the change and I'm all for change, but I feel like, what do you think affordable housing is? Cause people out here making pork and bean budgets to survive for caviar and it's not working for people. I sit in the park every day with homeless people, whether they choose to be homeless or they don't. What's affordable to y'all? Is affordable people that are making the same type of money as you? Or are you trying to build a project for everybody to survive in? That's my question. Cause like I said, there's a lot of homeless people and it's like, what's affordable? A lot of them can't even afford to go nowhere. Like the last person said, there's no housing for them anywhere. Like they sleeping in the park, they sleeping under bridges. Whether they choose to or not, they're still doing it. And if they don't have a safe haven to go to, how are they gonna survive? So, I can tell, but I care.
Yes, thank you. We're gonna address them. Anyone else? Anybody else? Remington Cemetery?
Who's it?
Reverend
My name is
Cemetery.
Tim Terry, I'm pastor in the community, served on several boards. Have attended a lot of these meetings in the past. And it's really good to be here, that we have people coming into the community who want to develop housing that will help alleviate homelessness and housing instability. I came and I thought that I could put 100% behind support for the project. But listening to how few apartments will be actually affordable for the people in the community we're trying to house, I have that concern. I understand what you're saying about building 20 feet above the floodplain and the catch basins and the piping is gonna be wider, diverting water. I believe that your $20 million estimate you want to protect, you wouldn't want to, be throwing money down into the sewer. But 6 apartments, $47,000. We don't have that kind of income in the community. I know the developers, you make an investment, you want to recoup your investment, So I don't know where we go, but I know that's not the answer.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
because I wasn't initially gonna speak, but I'm just here.
Name?
So, my name is Kai Payton, I am a lifelong resident of Hudson, and I work in housing. So with the affordable housing, you just said that the 63 is gonna be like 47,000, is gonna be saying that that's gonna be the cap, right?
They're gonna go over all that.
Well, is that, so but then I guess I have to wait until he's answered, and then I'll ask him.
No, ask your question so we can make
Well,
sure.
if that's the cap, 47,000, that would be the highest, so. I deal with a whole lot of mixed different classes, so we have 30% with Bliss Towers, we have 30% with Hudson Terrace, Skylar Court, Providence Hall, and then you have your Crosswinds and Greenport Gardens for more tax credit, but those people who, like myself, are over that 23, there's nothing for the 47s. So that 47,000, those middle class people, all these people who are working at these nursing homes and the schools even, they, $50,000 is not a lot of money. So, but just because you make $50,000 doesn't mean you can pay $2,000 in rent.
Right.
So these apartments are definitely needed. They are definitely needed. You have so many people who, if every time they get a raise with that 30%, you're gonna be pushed out. You're gonna be pushed out. So to have affordable housing, like you said, there's a difference between affordable and low income. You need that affordable in place. Because everybody isn't on public assistance, or everybody doesn't get SSI. So you need those in place as well.
Should we tell who she was? But she's talking with experiences.
Yeah, but I would like her to sign the sheet too, it's Ms. Payton.
Yeah.
Kai, I can tell people who you are.
Yeah, I just said what I was. I work in housing, I'm gonna give
Right.
it to like a second place.
Margaret
But I
Sanger.
worked in
Yes,
housing
I had Margaret. sign.
over 8 years.
That's in housing.
Yeah, everyone else.
Okay, is there anyone else? Could we take a 5-minute break? Please.
Brilliant idea.
Here's
Great.
cupcakes.
So it is now 8:10 by my clock.
Probably nothing about that.
8:15, okay? Just a 5-minute, 7-minute break. Thank you. And guys, get ready to answer questions.
Yeah.
I don't know, you may need a cupcake in you guys. I can try.
Yeah, you can't figure out the words.
No, he did not.
I'm so Margaret. What was that?
Everything that goes staff.
1, 2,
Oh, my God.
say something? We're good.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
The meeting is now in order to resume. We have another speaker. Usha Berlin. Oh, okay, yeah, everybody spoke. Yeah, no, no, come on, come here. We're gonna, you know.
Well, I must say,
No,
do I
you're good, you're good.
face you?
You
Or
can
as the group? Okay.
You can face.
Hello, dear.
face up.
So, my name is Usha Berlin. I've lived in Hudson for 35 years. I have a business here and, you know, I'm very involved in the community. I've seen the community change quite a bit. I've seen, houses go from serving 3 to 4 families to being, 1-unit dwellings. And I see that Hudson really needs housing. You know, Hudson is a city. I always think of a city as a person. You need all the parts of the person to work to make it an integrated city. I came out of New York City. And the Hudson that I saw when I first moved is very different than the Hudson I see now. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. But I would hope that this project would get passed. Hudson needs the housing. I hope the location can all be worked out, that it will be environmentally approvable. And basically, I just would like to see a place for people who work here to have a place to live here. And, you know, I don't see that happening. I see a lot of Airbnbs where people come and go. So you could be famous today and have your fall tomorrow. But there are people that lived here before I ever came here. And this is who we want to keep here. That's what makes a city healthy. It's just not money, status, and your position. No, it's more to that, to make something grow, prosper, and include all. Those are my words. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone public? Okay, gentlemen, did you get ready?
Sure.
Okay, so now, you can answer what you know, and if you missed on any question, you'll get that chance to ask that question again. Okay, so go ahead.
I'm gonna start with so, as we noted before, currently water flows through the site from off-site, through the culvert, some of it overflows, passes through the site. The water that you see going through the site right now is moving, it's not standing still, right? It's flowing at a, you know, some level of, a fairly shallow level, but it's wide. So what we've done is we've designed this channel, it's narrower and deeper, right? That's how it conveys that water. One of the other comments that we heard about was fill in the floodplain. We do have a little bit of fill in the floodplain, but part of what this filling basin does here is that we actually are excavating material out of the floodplain. So we're actually removing twice as much material from the floodplain as we are putting in it. Actually, effectively making the floodplain the volume that it can hold. Granted, it's the Hudson River, so it's a little bit incrementally larger amount of water, but effectively it makes it so that floodplain elevation doesn't change. We are complying with all regulatory requirements as far as stormwater that's generated by the site, complying with requirements for the floodplain development. As I mentioned, flood elevation is at 11.3. Our building and the site is now at 20. So we're well above that. In general, we are not changing anything from its current condition based on the design of the site. As far as access is concerned, you know, in speaking to the city DPW commissioner, he's seen this intersection of Middle and Second Street flood. he said 3 times in the past, where the depth of the water was around 12 inches. That is a depth that is traversable, it can be driven through by emergency vehicles. And large passenger vehicles can drive through them. And he also said that water recedes within hours, so it's not that people have the inability to go anywhere for an extended period of time. I think that those are the comments that I wanted to address.
Yeah, I'll jump over and pick up.
Okay, can I ask a quick question? Now, do you have like a routine maintenance schedule so that, so the trench ditch is clean?
So that's a good question. Part of the on-site, stormwater pollution prevention plan that prepares to mitigate the water coming off generated by the site includes requirements for ongoing maintenance, like in perpetuity, as long as the site is active and has those facilities.
Now, in that trench, how deep is that?
The trench depth is around 6 to 7 feet deep, that's the deepest point.
Is it gonna be fenced so that somebody can't fall in?
There are currently guardrails along here, along the sidewalk.
So
It's not a 6-foot sheer drop.
No, it's a sloped drop, right?
okay, but there was a concern that a kid could, yes, get trapped in it, and you're saying you can't.
Right, it's right, there's guardrail.
Right.
I have a question about, you said you're gonna build it up 20 feet. So,
Not 20 feet. The
well, from
elevation.
11 to 20.
Right,
So is that 11 feet, if I were to go there and stand on it, would that be the 11 feet that you're referring to, that it's at now? Can you explain that to me?
So 11, if you're looking at the site, all the way to the right is about 11, right?
roughly where the tree line is.
And then to the left, it's up to, we have maybe up to like 15, 16 over here.
Yeah, somewhere around here. Right.
So, yeah, it would be, if you're looking at the site, 11 is about,
Correct, so if you look at the highest point in the road right now,
So
the
that's
site will be level with that,
when it's at the 20.
20, right?
And then how do you get it up 8 feet?
There'll be fill brought in to fill that. And then there will, a lot of it will actually be material for the detention system, it's gonna take up a lot of that as well.
Sorry, the guardrail for the trench, it's. Do you have a picture of it? Because I'm concerned about a child is.
I don't have a picture of it with me right now, but it's a standard guardrail like that you would see it on the side.
Yeah.
But, so you could go under it.
Probably over.
It's not a fence, it's just a rail.
Yeah, it's not.
So a kid could definitely go over it or under
I mean,
it.
it's a sloped hill, it's not a sheer drop, right? And if the concern is when it's full with water, that would be it's like, you're gonna be water. There's gonna be water, there's gonna be water in that kind of flooding.
So there's no safety concern there.
It's gonna be on call. Not sure. Water, these of us. It's basically a stream chip.
So this is like in the grass area. The fencing's on the top, like the fencing is off of the roadside, like from the road to the.
So there's a guardrail up on the road,
Right.
and this slopes down to where it gets to the deepest point, and then it slopes back up to guardrail.
There's actually a retaining wall on our side with a fence on it. Because it's a sheer drop.
Right, so there's one on your side and there's one on the top side.
On the road side, there's a guide dog.
There's a guy.
So it's both lots, but just a few off.
Depending on the time.
That's.
I mean, the other.
I would add some signage. You know, prohibit people from being in that area. I think we should do some for the basin. Yeah, exactly. That water can be quite turbulent there.
Please don't talk out of turn, but you don't.
My apologies.
Thank you.
But my question still hasn't been answered.
Yeah, we're gonna give them a chance to do that.
Sure, so, there's a question about parking, I don't recall what projects we had in the exhibit of parking study. But the state one, we have at least two projects that I can think off the top of my head that are on dead end streets with similar.
Oh, yes, somebody asked that
The statewide average is about 0.4 for affordable housing, I think ours are a little bit less, 0.35 or something. We have housing in the suburbs, we have housing in the cities, villages, smaller cities.
Excuse us, there's a lot of side talking. Could we just wait a second, so we're trying to hear, we're trying to answer everybody's question? Can we just give them the respect? Thank you. Thank you.
Sure, so we have housing developments in a lot of different situations, suburban cities, villages, smaller cities. On average, our parking lots are, forget the exact number, but it's somewhere between 0.35 and 4 spaces. We have two, at least I can think of, off the top of my head, that are on dead end streets.
In a small town.
In a city, similar size town.
In a small city.
Right.
How big are those, what size of the city are those developments are in?
Population.
Yes. Okay, come on. What?
Okay,
10,
well now,
20?
So
He said he didn't know.
So, yeah, we have 25 developments throughout New York State.
Okay.
I would say that across the board, we don't provide one parking space per unit.
Right,
And more likely, in a situation like Hudson, the information we provided is that we're averaging around 0.35 to 0.4 parking spaces.
right, so you don't have any developments in rural communities, basically.
No, we did.
How rural? What, name a town, name the
I'm
town.
happy to answer any questions.
So you have like the village of Rouse, which is pretty suburban, do you know what the parking ratio is, or could you provide that?
What is it?
I can provide it if it doesn't.
The village red.
Red Hook?
Yes.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
You have a website that they can go on, have this information on, right? Okay, he's gonna give you his website, you can go on and look.
How big is the development in Red Hook?
You have a website, right?
Yes.
How big is the development in Red Hook? I'm just asking. What size of the development?
Yes, 92 units.
92 units, and you provide how many parking spaces?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, but Alan, you can go on their website and all of their information is.
But Teresa, they're here to answer questions.
I know, but he doesn't have to answer, and you
Yeah,
keep on nail it,
that's very
and he doesn't
convenient.
have it, and I'm trying to tell you where you can get it from. Okay.
With all that,
I'm here to get it from the source.
this information was part of the secret process. We haven't brought up the parking study in probably 8 to 9 months, and that information.
It's available, it's available,
Pick up at the last meeting that you were not at earlier this
it's
month.
available.
So the other question was about
Let them
affordability
finish answering the question.
and the income max. So we try to provide a broad range of income limits. This way we can capture a lot of households and individuals. And if someone begins to earn too much, there's an opportunity to stay in the development. So those 30% incomes that I provided are maximums. So no one can make even $1 over them. So for one person for the 30%, I think the question is about the 60%. So for one person for the 60% is 47,300. So no one can make it over them. And for two people, it's up to 54,120. So someone can make under that, but they can't make over that. And then we have the middle income to help kind of capture this.
They under that.
They can't make a single dollar over it, but we're at risk of losing the tax credits that we get to build the housing, stay with the capture.
So what is the monthly rent for a one bedroom?
Yeah, we have. The 30% is $513 and the 60% is $1,093.
Okay.
And you only, and you had 100%, there was only 10 apartments, not the whole.
Seven. They're very different.
Is it possible, excuse me? Thank you. Is it possible you can give us that information so we can post it on the website? Sure. About the, exactly the questions I've asked. So it's available to people that may not have attended this tonight. And it's available anytime they need it. Go ahead, they're gonna finish and then I'm taking.
No, I think that was it.
Yeah, Josh.
Wait a minute, wait. Are you finished? Answer. Now, is there any question that had been asked prior to you asking another one that has not been answered?
Josh.
Okay, Margaret is,
So Margaret, first one, this is not so much a question, but a suggestion to you. You've had some questions here this evening. You may not be able to answer off the top of your head. I suggest that you write down all of the questions that you were asked and that you post written answers to all of those questions and you post it on the planning board website.
that's exactly what I just.
It's not exactly what you said. You asked them for certain information about.
Oh, well,
And say,
anything
list
in
every
that.
question, list every answer, post it on the website.
Do you have one?
Yeah, I mean, like, for the parking spaces, for example, that's already on the website. Right, that was already answered, provided.
And what's not on the website is the AMIs and how many is about, right, so they're gonna, that's not there, so they're gonna supply that. Who's next?
Josh is.
You next, I'm sorry, who's next?
Josh.
You keep counting that.
A couple things, the sewage leak, do we know the impact that made on the land?
We're not.
We're gonna let our consultant.
I was not aware of it, that's a city DPW issue.
Well, but it leaked onto that property, do we know how it's gonna be remediated and so on, so forth?
No, no information.
In the water flow, you're saying the guardrail's the only protection on that state bike route to protect the kid from falling into that, turbulent water
There will be,
situation?
Yeah.
There will be a curb, there will be a 5-foot sidewalk, and then there will be a guide rail. So there's going to be a separation from the road and the sidewalk and the guide rail.
And I think, Randy, you asked them for signage.
Yeah, on the other side, but yeah, on their property side, it's no trespassing clause.
Josh, the sewage you keep talking about, where's that coming from?
I guess you call it the paper trail, the end of North Third, where it comes down, where the power wires come down the hill. There was a major leak, we don't know how long it was going on, the city was going nuts looking, trying to figure out where it was while it was there leaking down into the field. They just repaired it, attempted to repair it like a month ago, but I still see it's awfully wet in the same general vicinity as it was before.
Is that where that path used to be, at the end of Third Street going down the hill?
Correct.
Wait a second, at the intersection.
No.
Yeah, you said sewage, cause you go smell it, or.
Well, yeah, the sewer department workers told me.
Gotcha.
Is that city property?
So just on the channel,
Some of it is.
just to circle back, the existing grade is gonna be pretty similar, very close to what the channel grade would be. So how the property slopes down now, it's not going to be a sheer drop, that's going to be the slope of the channels.
Right, but then there's gonna be another side coming up, which creates a pool of water.
Right, only
Which is
during storm
different.
events.
Right, but that is different than just a slope going down where a kid wouldn't drown.
No, yeah, I think I thought the concern was like the child would fall on us any day, not just storm events.
That's right.
And what I'm saying is the conditions, the slope is very similar to what it is now, except we'll have a guardrail. So the slope is not any more extreme than what it is now. During storm events, yes, there'll be water going through this, there'll be a stream channel. But this is storm events.
So that's, in essence, you're saying it's more dangerous now.
No, it's not.
There's no guard.
The slope is.
The channel is there, there's no guard.
Well, but there is no channel, there's no.
It's a stream, it's a stream of water. It's a stream.
Well, but
It's a fast moving stream of water that goes from one end to the other.
But you're turning back on it, though, you're gonna take all this water and put it into a little narrow raceway, and it's gonna be tremendous flow.
Yeah,
Yes, but you're not including what part that's going into his detention system.
That's when you run off from the parking lot. This already doesn't get into the detention system, the pipes down below ain't changing, that water's still gonna back up there, I don't care how big the pipes are under the ground, and you know, we get out, it's
No,
bad.
Cause I understand, do you understand he's gonna have a detention system underneath that whole parking lot that's gonna hold water?
For his development,
Right.
Yeah,
not for what's coming, for the runoff from his development.
yeah, just could you show the thing? Cause I didn't, and I get it, cause I didn't understand this either, so will you show them your underground parking?
We saw it.
but the same
You know,
amount,
then you wouldn't ask the question if you really seen it, you asked me a question.
That runoff is only taking the water that is gonna be surface water with that huge parking lot there. And then from the building to
the flow from Third Street to Second Street will remain the same,
Yeah.
92.
Okay, you're gonna let,
Per second.
please let them answer, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanna summarize, all of this has been submitted, all the data, all the flows for both storm, rainwater, and the stream flow, we've submitted this, it's been reviewed by the planning board engineer, and they've concluded, they've concurred with our conclusions. But Andy, would you like to summarize it?
Okay, so you know what, to move on, because it is on our page, it's available for everyone, just to move on so we can go to other people and they have questions.
Okay.
Please go on to the planning board page and you can get the answers to what you responded. Do you next, yeah. So, wait, a minute, you asked the question.
Comment about this ditch. So I don't think you're understanding the issue that's being raised here. In the storms, you're going to have a gully, you're going to have a stream. It's not about whether children are going to fall into it. Children don't have to fall into streams to get into them. It's will it be accessible? So if you've got a small child in that area, it's not like, oh, well, there's a sidewalk and there's a guardrail. Children are children. And if you don't have something that keeps them from getting into that sheet, then it is not safe. I think that's the issue that they were trying to do. That's all.
I mean, if the planning board wants us to put a fence along Mill Street there, we're happy to do it. It's no different than any other stream channel throughout the city.
That acts like a dome. Wait a minute, let me finish, like a dome that allows the water to go in,
Yeah, great.
but not people.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I may call it a dome, she calls it a grate, but it's something, let me finish, it's something that will allow the water to go in. But it will catch if a person comes in, like if you go to New York City, you got the subway grates in the street, the people can't fall in there unless they open the grate. But maybe your dime can fall in there, your keys, but children and people, something like that.
Yeah, it's too much.
It's too wide.
It's very wide. It's probably 20 feet wide, it's not.
Okay, does that exist now, that type of situation?
Just on one side. When you're at Mill Street looking at the site, how it slopes down, that will be very similar to the grade that we're making the chin off, just on the backside, about 15, 20 feet away.
Yep.
It'll then come.
So it's partly existing now.
Yeah, if we wanted to put a fence, I think that would probably solve, I mean, 'cause a guardrail, I mean. People fall over it. Guardrails are designed to be generally safe. If people fall over a guardrail that's at a regulated height, then that's generally construed to be on the fault of a person. That falls over a regulated guardrail.
I think the concern is that kids are gonna play there when there's no water, like kids play everywhere, and then they might go to play there when there is water and get swept up in a rushing river.
But they're talking about, but this is, they're talking about a huge storm. This is not just a, this is.
Well, but it might not take a storm to make a stream with the way it floods now, with all that water pushed in, it could just be a little rain. right?
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking.
So that'll be regular, that'll happen regularly.
We're happy to.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it does seem like a legitimate concern for
Yeah.
all the kids of the neighborhood.
And not only that, more kids are coming to this neighborhood.
Okay, so.
Exactly, the 70,
So,
The applicant is saying he's willing to-
so I mean, it's nothing wrong with that, but maybe, what,
Please sign,
Commissioner?
please sign it.
What's that?
Have him sign.
what do you think could happen to make it a lot safer for kids?
The gentleman with the brown.
Let me think how to phrase this.
I will remember his name again.
The Hudson River is less than a mile away from the facility.
Right.
The Hudson River during flood events is not fenced off. It doesn't have a guardrail. It's well over 20 feet deep. Kids go and play at the park. And it's not a concern there. You cannot engineer everything, every little, you know.
And there's a, I understand that.
Good point.
We're taught to stay away from the river as a kid. And this is
And,
a park.
and there'll be signage that tell.
No, they said they put
This is
it.
a park for kids, it's right next to us.
It's gonna be something that's gonna, like,
There'll be signage and a.
Yeah.
I think that should happen.
okay, so. Okay, all right, so let's get back to, did you finish all the questions? And like I asked you a question, was there any question that was asked? Was there any question that was asked prior to that? Okay, well, we finished over there. Was there any was there any question that was asked prior? That was not answered by them?
This lady first.
Okay. You, yes.
Hi, it's the way up again. I wrote it down because you told me to really sign it. Okay, so you guys are talking about there being a lottery period. So my question is, after the lottery period ends, right, so the lottery period would be residents of Hudson would be able to get first dibs. So I guess my question is, after that lottery period ends, how will you guys monitor and ensure, because we see a lot of people coming in from New York, coming to Hudson, so how are we monitoring and ensuring that people that are, like, that Hudson residents still continue to get first dibs to these apartments outside of the lottery ticket? Or like, would you guys commit to that in some way, like?
They never
Yes,
get.
please,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Would you guys ask your question and allow them to answer? This way, everyone will get the information they need and you won't be listening to wrong information. Thank you.
So we can provide, what's called a preference or a set aside for residents of the city of Hudson. Right, we'll have marketing efforts locally, or brochures, ads, in the papers, get the brochures here at City Hall, applications at City Hall. One workshop if need be, where we can have them come to City Hall, or the local library, help people fill them out. We have to do a broad marketing program. And then, once we get all the applications, we'll have the lottery, we'll continue to accept the applications even after, immediately after the lottery, and continue through anyone who isn't successful in getting an apartment during the lottery process, that list then just becomes our wait list. And any applications received after that just get added onto the wait list.
Okay, so I guess I have a follow-up question to that. So would you guys be willing to, I get what you're saying, you can't like legally like ostracize people outright, but would you guys be willing to at least keep track of data? Where it's like, where you see it's an influx of people coming from the city that's getting these apartments, where you'll do more marketing or something like after the lottery period, like. If you see like most people that are getting these apartments are coming outside of the Hudson, neighborhood. Okay, let's partner with local nonprofits or let's do more marketing to try to get the word back out to like. The lottery period is not gonna last that long, so years down, I guess I'm just trying to think about like what's gonna happen years down the line outside of this lottery ticket, and I don't want this development to be ran over by like folks coming from outside areas, and it's not really helping the people that we're fighting for to help. But we have so many people that have been pushed out, they wanna come back home.
You know how many kids cry because they can't graduate with the class that they've been with for 11 years, and now because mommy can't afford to pay the rent, they gotta go to grandma's house, way under orphanage, or go somewhere else. They wanna come back home, so if you stop it, then you're not gonna allow people, they're not gonna have that opportunity. We just need to stop making excuses, that, you know, we keep coming up with a reason to stop the project. Every time they come back and they give you a solution to what you feel is the problem, stop, just look at it. They said it's not gonna make it worse, it's not gonna make it worse, right? So you're already dealing with the situation, and the way I see it, if the problem ain't gonna make it worse, it's gonna make it better, because we're not gonna have as many homeless people. So we need to stop arguing over that fact, it's gonna be some extra water, get some sand back like they did on the question about, the eligibility criteria. Besides income, were there other eligibility requirements like employment status, family size, credit check, and background checks?
So, yes, there's background checks, there's criminal checks, there's, credit checks. Employment, we have to verify everyone's income down to the dollar, looking at interest on savings account. Ability, income, part-time, cash tips, we have to look at everything.
What's this pitch on people? Which is it?
If there's any income reported on their tax return.
Oh.
But we have to have it as part of it. Employment, not so much, so long as there's a source of income, someone could be retired, right, with a pension fund or disability, so employment's not. The threshold matter, does that make sense? Or
Yeah, so would you have to have like a certain credit score, or would you have to, like, if you have a criminal record, would you not be eligible?
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
That's a great question. So there's new legislation now, or new guidelines, I guess, in New York State. So there's less focus on the credit score, especially when it comes to medical bills or student loans. So if there's an issue with credit, you actually have to dive into what's the issue with the credit. What happened? Was it for non-payment of rent, or was it for a single medical incident that fell behind on medical bills? When it comes to criminal, we have to go through a whole checklist. If there's any, we do broad search, county, statewide, and national. And if there's any hits on it, we have to go through and determine if that, whatever the eviction was, if they're a threat to anyone in our community, surrounding community, employees. If we think this is like violent assault, recent, I probably shouldn't give big examples, but that would be something that we would determine that they would not be eligible.
Or sex offender.
But if it was why 15 years ago, that may not be as heavily.
So pretty much if you have a criminal history, you might not be able to get into the top.
No, not exactly. We're gonna look, if someone's in criminal history, we'll look at the specific instances, and there's a whole checklist that we go through to see. One is time frame, right? Is it recent? Is it long? Has there been repeated patterns, right? Where repeated violent offenses in a short period of time very recently, or was it? There's a whole deep dive that we do with the potential applicants on. We don't do it in the side. We actually go through with questions.
Did you answer your question? Did you raise your hand?
I did, well, one point of clarification is not the subject order. Thank you for standing for so long, this is a long night, I really do appreciate it. But this, there was a lawsuit 100 meters away from this spot, where a woman got stuck in a fence. And I think either passed away, there was a lawsuit against HPP for someone stuck in a fence. I just want to point out this whole trench fence thing is 100 meters away from where I believe, according to the Times Union, someone passed away and sued HPD and the city. So this is one point of information. Second, is just curious, and you might not be able to answer this or willing to answer this, and I respect that. But since this is public money, Sean, are you guys obligated to share your profit margin that is projected for this project if it happens on time and on spend? How
Yeah,
much
I
money
mean,
will you make?
it's very simple. We get one source of income, the developer fee. I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Is it like 1 million, 2 million, 10 million?
Yeah, it's probably around 2.5 million, and of that, I think we're deferring, which means we don't get paid $1 million.
Got it, so 2.5 defer one, then you get continual income as folks pay rent. Or, is it one time?
We own the building, we operate the building.
Got it, and so what's the projected income over the course of a year if everyone pays their rents?
Sure, it's about 40,000.
Sorry,
40,000
$40,000 per year from
cash.
cash flow.
After debt service and expenses.
Got it, is that submitted in the plans that I can look at it elsewhere and I'll take time now?
That's not.
Yeah, we don't see-
That's
not a plan, right.
It would be submitted to us, it may be.
On your website or something?
Agencies and it's,
Got it, so 2.5, 1 million offset, and then 40K cash flow per year for a number of years. That's
Yeah, I mean, 40K cash flow for year one, and then there's projections increasing rent and expenses at 2%, 3%, projecting out. All right, so we focus on the first year and then the rest of the year with projection plans.
Probably not to go under the 40, going forward, it would be 40 or more.
Yeah, no, we can certainly afford it.
They want to make money.
No, we can go under, the 40, right? If a fridge goes out and the one that's not covered in warranty,
Okay.
you're not making out 40, we're gonna make 39. And it's not so much make, it's we have debt, we have investors, and we have debt coverage ratios and income and expense. And the state won't fund it unless we're financially stable and secure. So we have to make a certain income in order to afford the debt of the property. The state caps our cash.
Yeah, I appreciate that and also appreciate your time answering all those questions. I'm sure you will also find out. So just thank you and I'll follow up with an email with more questions on the finance.
That's good, Linda.
Linda Musman, Board Supervisor, I just have one, it seems like it's very hard to visualize this project. And I know after the Galvan project was built, we were pretty surprised how big it was, like, that was a big
Which one
surprise.
are you talking about, the one on Sixth Street?
Yes, it was.
Seven.
Sorry. Well, maybe there's a way you all could space this out, and really show the community where it all is and the height. So that we could actually see it and visualize it, either with some sticks on the grounds, show us how high it is, where it sits against that hill. I mean, it seems only fair that the community actually has a visual presentation of what we're going to be seeing in such a limited space. I mean, there are balloons, there's ways of doing this, it's pretty simple.
But it's one thing they did say some time ago. There's a hill there now,
Right,
and they're gonna be below that.
well, they can show us all these
Yes,
different.
but that's all I'm saying. There's a hill there now, and they're gonna be below that hill, so they had said that, so, is that a good picture of how that hill is, or is that just the?
Yeah, I mean, this is a rendering.
Right, so how, about how low are you gonna be below it?
I think the top of the hill is about 80 elevation. I think top of our building, 60, so.
I think it's only fair to this, the neighborhood.
Well, that's, yeah, that's.
Now, it's a big ass.
Yeah, but that's again doing something that.
I don't think it's a big ass.
Yeah.
They did put into a presentation.
Yes, they
I don't-
did.
We don't have internet.
Yeah, they did.
It's on
Is it on our website? Look, it's on the website. They did.
If I
do a
think they
presentation for that.
show.
They showed it in a picture. They showed the hill and then they showed.
That's all conceptual.
If you can show an angle and show this development, how it's across.
Yeah.
The highlight across the street. So you can see the scale.
Do you have any of your raw materials?
You submitted.
Yeah, it's all up in the.
Yeah, it's on the website, right? Okay, so on the website and it shows the hill, then it shows how where they're building underneath that building.
So it's just a request, and that's up to them, because up to you all to decide whether you want to make that request. That's.
Thank you.
Not true.
Lloyd?
Did you want to say something?
No, I was just gonna reiterate that we did produce, elevation profiles that showed that.
It's, everything's on the website, and I understand, I don't like going on the computer to look for information either, but it's there.
Thank you, kind sharing of this austere body. I think Linda's suggestion is brilliant. That everyone see, and I think it can be done easily with a scale model. 3-dimensional on like a big curve, showing the terrain, the idea of where the water would flow, maybe where the sewage is coming out. I think it's part of evaluating anything. We don't always know all aspects. See, Josh is bringing up the sewage thing. I doubt that that was taken into consideration. They're always gonna run into these issues. But anyway, supposed to ask my question again. And I doubt that there's an answer. And I respect that there might not be an answer forthcoming from the planning board. But it's my understanding that the great city of Hudson has this wonderful plan, is taking into account the affordability issues, and wants to further the affordability, as we all do. And I was just wondering how this complies with the 2035 plan. And I feel like I'm getting like stairs.
Yeah,
And I think Eliza wants to ask a question.
one question. I noticed our street is very quiet, but we do have a ton of foot traffic because the Empire Street State Trail is Mill Street basically. Was there any consideration for all of the pedestrians and cyclists and pedestrians on that street?
Yeah, I mean, that was in the traffic study, so they actually took counts for bicyclists and pedestrians walking and running, and yes, we have a sidewalk along the street. So looking at the traffic counts, they looked at the number of people walking averages, and then we had a sidewalk.
I feel like the sidewalk might not be enough space for none of the things that are happening on that street. Should be like a separate path, like a 2-lane path for cyclists moving in either direction. It's like every 2 minutes there's.
Yeah, bike races.
It's the 235 comprehensive plan.
Strollers, people walking their dogs, kids and adults. And especially the park, there's gonna be more people.
Okay, Lloyd, I'm gonna read something to you that's gonna answer about the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Okay. It says the project is supported by the city of Hudson's comprehensive plan, which on page 44 explicitly encourages the use of incentive zoning and expansion of incentive zoning modulars for affordable housing and multifamily housing.
Is that public now?
Well, it's in the comprehensive plan, and it's saying that we're going to.
But
You asked how it
has
compares to it.
that been officially produced, or is that just an advanced copy you asked?
This is the current, this is about the current comprehensive plan. We.
On that, about the 2035, is this the 20, which plan is that?
No, 2035, we haven't been reviewing it since, haven't been enough. That's what we're releasing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
it's
still
still.
in April. And you're fine.
But
It's not.
It was still in April.
yeah, I don't think the common council did anything with it.
I understand that, but it's a general point.
Noted.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor.
I have one more point of input. It sounds like there's not very much low income, so I believe that's gonna make a change to your 0.5 cars that you're allotting parking for. Someone making 47 grand, they're gonna have 2 cars per.
I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry to say that. I don't think so.
We ain't gonna be a BMW, but they're gonna have a shitbox Toyota. 0.8 is not an accurate number of cars per household. So where did they park after the lot?
Any more questions? Any more questions from the public?
Yeah, I'm done.
Huh?
It's not
Who's not?
9 o'clock.
Please. Oh, no, that's a standard, if, you know, when it comes to a public hearing, when you give you the chance to talk. So any more questions from the public? I mean, we're all tired, but any more questions? Okay, so, any more questions from the planning board?
Well, I just request that we note the fence and the signage.
I have it, I made note of what you said about fencing signage.
Any notice about it? Sorry, I'm just. Anything else?
One quick story.
Yes, all right.
Stories, it's laid out, condensed, but, when I run into this a lot. When I first started, before I had any gray hair, I was in a town, very similar situation. There was a lot of community members who did not like their development. They came out, they said they supported it, they support affordable housing, they wanted it, just not here. Wasn't the right site. So at that time, we actually moved the site. We worked with the town, found another site, started again, we had a whole new group of people coming. It was the same thing. We know we need supportive housing, we support it, just not this site. There was other reasons on why, no site is perfect. That second site was good, we ended up developing it, very successful project. This site is good. No site is perfect, there's issues, we've addressed the issue. The last outstanding comment issue we've worked on, flooding impact to the neighbors, has been addressed, responded to by the planning board engineer. So no site is perfect. We come across this often. Development change can sometimes be hard, but I think in this case, we've worked well to address any impacts or.
So,
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second. I can't second. I didn't ready to. I get second, right?
Yes.
I second. Okay, all in favor? Roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
No, we're closing the meeting. Hearing.
I guess I'm not sure. I'm not
You
sure.
can abstain if you like, you can vote, whatever. Did you get a chance to read?
Yeah. It just seems like there's a lot of people who have a lot to say, so it seems beneficial to let people speak.
No, this has
Been in front of us for a year.
Well, yes.
Well, not as long as the other projects you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We are voting now, please, thank you.
Yeah, understanding facts.
I understand, but we don't need to state it, thank you.
Well, you don't listen to the facts, so. you stay.
Gabby, could you give us one way?
I guess I'll say no.
Okay, Jane?
Yes.
Closing for tonight or?
No, we're closing it completely, the public hearing, that's
You
it.
got
I will
comments,
say
you got all the
that
information you've
sure.
heard.
Please, don't say anything, could you please respect this meeting?
I asked my question, she will answer.
How many have we had aside from this one? I can tell you. Hold on. The board held a public hearing on starting September 10th, 2024. And then had them all the way through May 29th, 2025.
Yes, to that.
Monthly.
And I. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. 1 absent and 1 no. Is that a spring or no?
It's a no, but
It's a
it
no.
passed.
Okay, so it passed.
Right, so the public hearing,
Closed. Okay, public hearing on Mill Street is now closed. Now. Are we ready to? Go ahead, I'm just too tired. on the, first one.
Oh, I guess we're asking board members if they're ready to talk about, the next step on the project tonight.
Right. Did everybody get the, information that they gave us? And then, were you able to read it and understand it? Any questions on it? Just from the board? Just from the board.
So what you have, if the board is ready to move forward, what you have are two draft resolutions. One is to approve the height variance because the project as proposed exceeds the permitted number of stories by 1 story. But if they propose affordable housing in perpetuity, this board is allowed to grant them an additional story in exchange for the affordable housing in perpetuity. So that is one resolution for the board's consideration. And then there's a second resolution to grant conditional site plan approval, which would be subject to several conditions. Based on tonight's discussion, there may be additional conditions to be added.
So are we ready to at least do the, grant of conditional height variance? Are we ready to, grant the, resolution for height variance for, for Mill Street?
I'll make that motion.
Can I second? I second. We gotta call roll call. So I. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not prepared to vote right now.
What's that, abstain?
Abstain.
Okay.
Yes.
Victoria, Veronica, I'm sorry, we got it both. Sorry. Veronica.
All that's coming to mind is, Linda Mussman brought up wanting to see the building. Because I understand what she's saying, the project that Galvin has built, there used to be a view there, once it was built, I was like, wow, you know. It's different seeing it there versus in person.
I just said we haven't applied that for any other project.
But see, the difference, because that came through us. And that was before I was chair. And you're right, I do agree with you. I mean, after they put it there, I even asked them, I don't think we gave them that approval. And I'm serious, I said, wait a minute. But I think what happened there was that the first floor is commercial, right? And that's where I think we were going. Because the first floor of Galvin's was commercial.
Yeah.
So instead of thinking, giving them another floor residential, we gave them another floor, which does look much bigger, but, you know, it was nothing to gauge it. This one, I noticed they have a hill there, and they showed us sort of, that's on the website, where they're building underneath that hill, meaning that there's blockage of the site now, and they're building underneath that. So, you know, but, just saying.
Can I just make a statement? The height that this is proposed is already under the regulations. So all they're asking for is an extra story, it still stays under the minimum height, they're allowed to build to. The number off the top of my head?
93?
No, it's like 45 feet,
Oh, what's that feet?
so it can be a 3-story and be 45 feet, or it could be a 4-story and be 45 feet. So they're staying under the height, they're just adding an extra story, right?
So why do we have to vote on it then?
Because it's a story, they either have a height or a
Oh,
story.
it's either or, and they want both.
No, they're under the height.
Oh,
They're allowed up to 45 feet, they're under that. They're just asking for the additional story. That kind of makes sense? No.
The actual height of the building is 45 feet. That's what's allowed.
okay.
What the code says is that you have to be under 45 feet, and per the code, you can only have 3 stories. But even with 4 stories, we're under 45 feet, so we just need permission to have that 1 extra floor. So the height of the building won't change.
And it goes back to how the city code really defines stories, right? So this building is 3 stories in the back, 4 stories here. So in other municipalities, that would be 3.5 stories. But here, we count the stories from the street. So it's 4 stories. It's being counted as 4 stories, even though half the building is 2 stories.
Plus 1 story of fill, bro.
Please, thank you.
Does that make sense?
I'm not sure if
So
those.
behind the building is only 3 stories because the foundation is going to step up.
Oh, I see, it's gonna have a sloping.
Yeah, almost like a walkout basement, just like a walkout front. Walkout front, that's it. The back is 3, front is 4, overall
I
height.
think so, it's
size of
the
zoning.
same amount of storage, just how many are visible.
That's how we're counting the stories.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, and 1 abstain now. So the motion passed. Okay. Okay, so. I'm gonna ask this question. Are we ready to grant them a conditional site plan approval? They've been in front of us since July.
June.
June of 2024.
Maybe it's even back.
I think it was Mac.
That. So, are we ready? Did everyone get a chance to look at the proposed resolution for approval? If I have any questions about it.
I don't have questions as much as a comment, I went out to the site, I talked to the homeowner at the end of the corner, at the intersection. The lady. And she told me about the flooding, and I brought that flooding issue back to the engineer. We discussed it at length, and then he went through his specialists in this. Because my concern was the safety of the building and the safety and the flooding of the street. And
remember, I was on the phone.
that's right, you're on the right. So
He had me on the phone just in case.
and I've talked to Rob Perry, and I am satisfied. I'm an electronic engineer. I'm not I'm not a civil engineer, but I am certain as I can be with the facts that we given that project will be safe on this site. I know there's questions. I know there's apprehension. I really feel for. I know. Yeah,
And if you talk to them.
and I don't believe, based on, because again, I've gone through, and again, I think that actually anything can happen, but if you're gonna do a building, you have to consider that anything can happen with any building. And I do believe that the engineering seems sound because of the way that they're gonna physically capture the water and divert it. And if their plan was not sound, or as homeowners, I'm not a lawyer, but I would imagine if they were saying was incorrect or was incorrectly engineered, that homeowners would have recourse. And I understand that you get most of the comments to me have said, we want affordable housing, we think the project is a little bit too big. I've heard that, but I think that leaving, 1 extra floor, leaving those extra units off the table, you're taking those off the table when we have such a pressing housing need now that's identified, doesn't make sense. If you're gonna build, build where you can make an impact. Now, as you realize, it's gonna be affordable, and from my perspective as a planning board member, I believe that this is the benefit you said. I mean, I looked at it vigorously, and I really had not had my mind made up, but I really did respect the engineering, and I believe that the calculations appear to me to be correct. So I would be prepared to move forward with conditions.
They also said
Yes.
Joe Biden was mentally.
Okay. So can I get a
For his term.
Can I get a motion? Okay, so we're gonna go through the
I mean, that's just my take, obviously, for that.
So,
I'm gonna go over the resolution for the additional site plan approval. I'm gonna go over the conditions, they're gonna read it to us, because there's a little changes, right, a couple changes.
yeah,
The things were added.
and I also, I haven't incorporated your comments yet, but if you want them incorporated now, I wasn't sure whether you wanted to before tonight, but I would like to add, you know, if the board wants to add additional conditions.
Yeah, we do wanna add
So-
things.
Here's how it reads now, everyone has a copy in front of them.
Mhm.
Now, so there's a bunch of whereases for the history of the project. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby grants conditional site plan approval to the site plan set and authorizes the chair or designate to sign the site plan set after compliance with the following conditions. 1. Payment of fees and all escrow. 2. Confirmation by the planning board engineer that the applicant has obtained a sewer extension permit from the city of Hudson and approval of the sewer connection as part of the city's permit by the DEC, as we stated earlier, that is required under the consent order with DEC. 3, planning board attorney and city attorney approval of a legal document restricting the projects of affordable housing units in perpetuity as affordable units and evidence of recordation of the same with the Columbia County Clerk. Documentation shall include evidence that the signatory of the document is authorized to execute said legal agreement. 4,
So that condition is important to make sure that at the time this document is recorded, that you actually own the property or that you have permission, someone who has permission to design it is entering into it, so trying to follow that.
I have a question while we're on that. So I think as you explained to Gabrielle that the condition that it always remain as park land was between the owner and the purchaser. Correct. So when reading this, it kind of sounds like if that theory applies, that they could sell, and I know he said he didn't, but they could sell it and it could no longer have to be affordable housing because that would now be between the new owner of the property and the buyer.
That's a good question. So, the restrictive covenants that the planning board can enforce would be one like, you know, no solution on this property, but it's zoned for a restaurant. And that was between, you know, 2 neighbors. But the city is not part of that. If it's zoned for a restaurant, they can come in, we can give them approval for a restaurant between the neighbors if they want to fight over the sewer. Here, the city would be a beneficiary to the restrictive covenant, and it would state that it's enforced by the city. So that therefore it runs with the land, and then the city is the entity that gets to go after it and enforce it.
Okay,
So it's just a matter of how the roads run.
okay, so this one, this means that it would go if they were to sell it to the next person.
It would be drafted in such a way that the city would be able to go to court to enforce it. And get us that right. That's a good question.
What's that? Clear here.
Yeah, it says that, we have to approve it, so we will make sure that it's written in such a way that it's enforced. Also, the city attorney has to approve it.
Okay.
And then, so 4, submission of written correspondence from the city of Hudson DPW, conforming coordination and final design for the sidewalk, guardrail locations, as well as the hammerhead turnaround on One Third Street to the satisfaction of the planning board engineer. And that's the hammerhead that's going on the trail that we've discussed. 5, submission of written confirmation from the city of Hudson or state of New York Empire Trail may be used as emergency access route for the project to the satisfaction of the planning board engineer. And that is about the bollard removal and that emergency access in a storm event that was discussed earlier. Be it further resolved, the applicant shall coordinate with the planning board engineer consultant throughout the final design and construction phases to ensure implementation of the drainage improvements as proposed in the CPL analysis and reviewed by BNL. Any modifications to the approved drainage plan shall be reviewed and approved by the planning board prior to implementation. This is to make sure that this long discussion on drainage happens, so they will not get sign off until the implementation plan is clear. Be it further resolved, the certificate of occupancy for the project shall not be issued until the applicant completes an installation of the sidewalk along Mill Street to the satisfaction of the city code enforcement officer, and that's what we wanted, we asked the architect to build the sidewalk and not to hold them to the side.
And I'm gonna add the fence and the signage.
Does the sidewalk say sidewalk with guardrails?
So if you look at their plan, their current plan has sidewalk and guardrails, I am happy to add that.
We should add that.
And fence, right?
Well,
And the secondary.
so be it further resolved that the CO, so you want it under CO or site plan?
Okay. The condition of the fence, it would be a condition of fence. I would say revision of the site plan that to include, what kind of, I mean.
Sidewalk, I mean, you have depicted a steel, is that like a steel guardrail?
So just one point of clarification,
Yeah.
I don't think we'll have enough room to do a guardrail.
Can't do a guardrail.
Defense. So we're gonna have.
Or do fence, we just wouldn't have enough.
Well, I'm confused. So they're talking about on the sidewalk side, the upper sidewalk street side, you have depicted a fence. I mean, a guardrail.
Right.
Right. So then we're talking about from your property coming in, like from the grass headed toward that sidewalk, having something in the field that would prevent someone from.
So there's
walking
already,
into the
there's
ditch.
already a fence on the parking lot side.
Oh, there is.
There's already, I thought we were discussing was putting an
The one on
additional
the
fence
side,
on the
on the
sidewalk
side.
side.
Instead of-
Replace the guide rail with a fence.
Yeah, but you say there is a fence below,
Yes, there's a fence on the parking lot side.
on the parking lot side.
Yes,
From the parking lot to the grass, there's a fence.
yes.
But from the sidewalk side, there should also be a fence.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's all sufficient.
Fence or.
But the children,
It's up to the
back to
board.
the kids.
No, but is the fence covering part of the guardrail?
No, it's
So there
guardrail
needs
on
to
one
be
side,
something.
fence.
Andy, can you show a picture of the
And
rendering?
there shouldn't be something covering the guardrail, then that isn't good.
Because you're saying, because we're saying a kid can get through these slabs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There needs to be something.
So you're saying you don't believe you have enough.
There
Well,
would
we
be.
probably can't do a guardrail.
Yes, there needs to be one or the other.
Change the guardrail.
Replace the guardrail.
Yeah, but I was to say this option.
What
to be the same.
What about moving the guardrail to the curb and putting a fence on the backside?
That's gonna hinder snow removal.
Yes, yeah.
How big is the sidewalk? How wide is the sidewalk?
It's 5 feet.
And that would be your sidewalk, you would have to make. So you.
Yeah, well, right, but I'm talking about snow removal from the street itself.
Cassie just brought up a point. Rob, DPW might have issues with the fence being right.
Again, how wide is this channel going to be? Did you say 20?
It's 4 feet wide at the bottom, 20 feet at the top.
And how deep? It varies,
It
right?
varies, but it's between 70.
And have your studies shown how deep the water will be during, I'm not talking about the 100 years, right? Average rainfall, like how much,
So we only evaluated 100-year event because that's what we were designing to.
okay, and then, so during that type of storm, how many feet of water will be in this channel?
About 6 feet.
And I mean, that's an attractive nuisance. There one time when I was a kid, my dad put a beach ball in a drainage culvert to make it fill up and we all went swimming. And it was, I remember, I was super little. I remember. That's the definition of an attractive nuisance. And hearing these excuses that the river is a half mile down the road, that's a natural occurring. We're making something here that we have control over. So why risk, oh, well, the river's down there and a kid can fall in that, so, same thing here. It's not the same thing. We're creating this. The river nature created. I mean, to hear this is 20 feet wide and can have 6 feet of water, that's gonna be rushing. And with that, you can't climb out of it, even me.
Can you put fencing there?
We had asked for, I think you asked for.
No, fencing.
They said it's too wide for a grade.
It's too much.
Too wide.
Yeah. If you don't get a grate, but you can do like fencing.
We're happy to put that in there. It's not it's 6 feet across, it's 6 feet deep. And it's 6 feet, I'm sorry, how many is it?
Sorry, it's about 7 feet.
6 whole 7 feet at the middle, right, but it's slopes, so it's not maybe 6, 7 foot deep, 20 foot wide.
But she's right, it is a
So fence would be.
We're happy to put a fence.
Okay. That's all we needed.
Well, we would need it.
4 feet would be
A non-climbable fence.
Ask Christian, what do we need?
We can put it in the pool standard.
I wouldn't probably do anything before, but I would really recommend going Rob here and finding out.
Yeah.
He's okay with it.
Well, I mean, it's not on his land, the fence they're talking about is on, no. it's-
The fence that they're talking about would be on the city-owned right of way.
It's in the right.
Okay.
So it would have to go through the DPW, that he's okay with it.
Okay, so a fence provided that is approved by the.
Oh, I would put a height restriction, this for visual impacts, this will keep bench you see from the road. So if I would, seriously, we want, like, think about what height, I would put a height restriction on what.
I don't really go over
For
6
the
feet.
fence.
You can't, you can't go over,
Eight
city,
foot
like,
setback.
you can't go over 6 feet anyway, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's
When I
correct.
was looking at 6 feet.
I have to return fence.
Not unless you do an additional like lattice and then you can go over that additional feet with that.
Yeah.
I remember reading stuff.
Like building code has to protect the
Right, yeah.
Well, they're gonna, you know, we want that fence.
We can do a
Can we write in adequate and a fence that provides adequate protection?
We can write it that they have to come back before this board in 2 weeks for you to approve the fence.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, we're gonna let them, because they're the ones that's gonna tell us whether or not, you know, how you
So you
gonna,
want
how it's gonna interfere and stuff. And if it's a problem, then you come back.
He might not wanna maintain a fence. Fences take maintenance, and the city of Hudson might not wanna maintain that fence. It's an extra burden on them.
Or we'll let them come back if, they say no. So, you know, I think he's gonna be okay with it. But I don't know.
Your confidence can speak.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be, I mean, we all disagree with it, okay, so we don't think about it. I'm thinking about, think about a 20 foot. They make anything we want, why can't you make it 20 foot?
No. Well, there's city of Hudson zoning.
guys, there's a few things I think we need to think about.
Okay.
First, there's a road right of way, which DPW has jurisdiction over. There are certain standards a road needs to be built to. Like you just can't put a fence on a road shoulder because it's not safe when they plow, when people pull over. So the fence has to be located properly in such a way that it doesn't impact maintenance of the roadway. And so I think we would be best drafting this in such a way that they come back with the fence plans. Because otherwise, I'm not sure how what you're
Okay,
approving,
right.
unless you just say you're fine with the guardrail as proposed.
No, you're not.
You're gonna resurface the road, you're gonna widen it and resurface it.
We're not proposing to resurface the road. There's gonna be, the road is gonna be torn up with the water line. And there's gonna be, pavement removal for the curb installation. So a good portion of it is currently proposed to be, resurfaced.
I just thought I heard you guys say.
We're wide, that's all the issues.
Okay.
Can we also have some visual that shows the size, so we have a better understanding in where this fencing is going, because I'm unsure if it's on the lower side or the higher side right now.
It would be along the upper, I'm sorry, it would be along the upper edge of the slope, right
So
next to the sidewalk.
we keep the guardrail at the sidewalk?
Yeah.
So is there a fence on both sides?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what, Victoria was saying, say what you were saying.
I was recommending that if you are inclined to grant approval tonight, that we have a condition that they come back just the fence plan, so that the board can review them, because we wanna look at the aesthetics of the fence.
And we
but you
wanna
also
know-
need to understand the location, and we want DPW to sign off.
Exactly. So we'll go along with that. Yeah, we can, still go ahead and be approval. And that should come back, that would be a petition.
And then I believe the other one I had noted was signage, and
What happened?
you wanted signage, right?
On that fence.
Yeah. Caution, area prohibited or something like that.
How would you like to make it a,
I didn't hear what you said.
it's a little stone? And stop it, yeah.
Electric fence.
Okay.
You have to.
Yeah.
City Hall.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
We're in the middle of the vote.
So we have, there's a new condition 6, revision of site plan set to include no trespassing signs in area of the drainage ditch. And then 7, approval by the planning board of safety features around the drainage ditch, including but not limited to guardrail fencing or a combination of both. So that is a part of the.
So when does DPW come?
I mean, I guess they'd have to go before we approve it.
Yeah.
Are you saying that's a separate plan that we'd have to produce to come?
Yes, you have to come back with something, because I think right now the board doesn't have enough information to make a decision.
On a fence.
Fence or.
Right.
Well, we made a decision on the fence, we just don't know the time.
Yeah, but if not, okay, I think it's still needs.
But if DPW comes back with something else, then we have to follow this, that.
And please have an illustration so that it be very clear.
Oh, absolutely, whatever we do, will be.
Okay, Veronica, did you?
Yeah, no one voted.
No?
I just made a motion.
Oh, we were going.
Oh, I don't know if I made a motion.
No,
you didn't make
no,
a
she
motion.
should. It's getting late.
Yeah, she's
So
reading
go
the
ahead, finish.
resolution. She's reading the resolution.
Okay, great. It's getting late.
So yes, so those are all the conditions. Is anyone have any questions? B, would anyone like anything added to the resolution?
Is there anything else? Everybody?
And the maintenance stuff it's in there.
Yes, I think part of it's part of the report.
And they're gonna send us outline on the different AMIs and stuff like that, the apartments, how many apartments is this? I'm sure that's what it's. So, let's see.
Okay.
Okay, so.
I make a resolution.
A motion.
No, I make a motion for that resolution, that. Site plan. Conditional. Site plan.
I second. What do you say? With the conditions?
But I made the motion, so.
What do you say? Yes.
Well, he's got to say.
Yes.
Now we're voting on this.
I verbalize yes.
Thank you.
I find this very painful because it's so clear that this city needs affordable housing and I think everybody wants that and the more the better. It seems like there are so many issues with this site. I have a hard time not seeing that there could be negative impact on existing residents. And it seems that part of our job is to protect the existing community and make sure there's no negative impact. So I hope I'm wrong. And there isn't going to be negative impact, but at this moment, I have to say no.
Jean?
Yes.
I guess I need to know how the process works, so. If this passes, what does that mean going forward? Like, what about if they come back and we don't like the idea?
Then we don't.
It's conditional.
So right now, the way it's drafted, it's a conditional approval. So you'd be approving a majority of the plans that would be conditioned on them coming back with an appropriate guardrail / fence plan that the board would have to vote on and approve. If they do not come up with something satisfactory, it gets voted down, then we can't satisfy the conditions of that approval. So, but overall, 90%.
Okay, are there any other recourses for? Oh. I'm not completely convinced. I do think what they've created will keep their $20 million investment sound. Obviously, they're a successful company. Am I convinced that the information that the water flow will be unchanged? No. Haven't been around a very long time, but I know everybody is in it for themselves. You know,
And that's one of the.
and as, you know, as everyone is saying, everybody wants this type of housing. But I need maybe some kind of meeting with somebody to understand that this is truly not going to change the flooding down there, that what they have, you know, and this is probably just the lack of my education, because I'm not educated in this stuff.
And I understand, because we go by, that's why we have the consultant who looked at everything and give us and advise us, 'cause we don't know,
Yeah,
okay? And, you know, it's up to you.
yeah. At this time, I'm unconvinced that they've developed a plan that has a parking lot and roofs that all create runoff, and that they've devised something that's going to unchange all of the water flooding for the residents who are already there.
Okay,
But
so is that a
but you
no or
understand that our
abstain?
engineer also reviewed it, it's not just them saying it.
Yeah, like I said,
So, that is also some strange.
You still gotta say
No,
yes or
you
no.
gotta say yes, no, abstain,
No.
what?
No.
No, okay, so it's 4 yes and 2 no.
You didn't vote, really.
I did, didn't I? I second.
She seconded. The second is not a vote.
Okay, yes,
The motion passes.
No, I
so the motion passes.
Okay.
But with conditions.
Okay, so Christian would also like to request, since the motion passed, that one of you propose a motion to allow for additional escrow for construction of those.
Definitely. We're gonna do that in the other.
And it doesn't have to be, the live firm, it can be another firm.
No, we're gonna do that in other.
No, it's related to this project. It's special escrow.
Oh,
Well, listen, before you memorialize that, can,
what?
We can do it next day.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Victoria,
Yes.
is it possible, because I have an additional question, but I want to ask you, can we have a 5-minute attorney-client executive session?
Okay, this motion passed, we're
No,
gonna
no,
close in a
she
minute.
write it down, yeah, this is important.
I mean, the motion passed, but we can have an executive session or an attorney. We can have an
We're gonna be
attorney-
finished in a minute. We only have one other thing to do. We're gonna have the executive, but right now, let's kind of close things out, and then we'll have it, and then we can let these.
Is it related to the motion that just passed?
Okay, so now the next thing on the agenda is,
So, I mean,
next thing is other business. The first thing we're gonna do is approve the minutes from May 13th. Everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from May 13th. Hello, did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from May 13th, 2025?
Yes.
They're not going anywhere. You guys are not going anywhere, right? No, stay here for a minute. Randall, let's finish the meeting. Come on, that's not, you know, it's not fair. Okay, everybody, can I get a motion?
A motion to approve.
Approve the minutes from May 13th, everybody just give it chance.
Yeah.
Second.
Oh, okay, all in favor?
Second.
Oh, who's the second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, now, do you wanna go to attorney-client?
You have to make a motion.
Can I make a motion to go to attorney-client session?
for advice of counsel.
Yes.
So just for the public, this is different than an executive session because you're seeking advice of counsel.
Yeah. Let me do this.
That means it's.
Do you want to,
Understand, sorry, I didn't understand the reason for executive session.
it's not an executive session.
Yeah, it's just, yeah,
But to speak here, we're sitting here, I'd like to understand what you're agreeing to. Is this an executive session? If it is, it has to have a reason. What is the attorney?
So he-
attorney-client.
He's asking for, he's asking for an attorney-client session for advice of counsel. I'm not sure what the issue is that he's seeking counsel on.
Don't you have to state that?
So it's it's not an executive session, it is an attorney-client session, but do you want to elaborate, you're seeking a question?
I can do it.
I mean, just on, is
Does he
it
have-
on
you
the
have
North
to?
Street application?
Yeah, yeah, I just want to know.
Do he have to? Does he have to do it?
Yeah,
Does he have to state it to the public?
we just said it was on the Mill Street, you don't have to ask the question.
No, you don't have to ask the question publicly, so it's up to you. You
Well,
don't
doesn't
have
matter. All I wanted to know was that,
Wait, so are you moving to attorney-client, or are you just?
Oh, we have to vote on it.
Yeah, you have to vote on it. This is, what's the course of action?
Okay, can I get a motion to go into attorney-client session? All in favor, second? All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Yeah,
Okay.
now we have to, we either have to go to a private room.
yeah, it's only gonna take us 1 second.
That's not a public, it's the line. And everybody else goes in private, we're gonna do it. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, perfect. Oh, you got, oh, this is you too.
No, the whole board.
So why don't we just have the other two people step up and restate?
Martin, sit down.
It's not.
I'm gonna-
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just, I'm like, this. It's not-
But this is not attorney Clark.
Yeah,
Not with.
I make a motion to.
No, wait, everyone's back in the room.
So the council chamber, when the camera's on it, it gets flipped and you can read it.
Really?
Yeah, you just don't do that.
Oh, cause it's mirror.
Oh, how do you know?
When I just think about your camera, when you take a picture in the mirror on something, it flips it.
But only if it's in a certain view, no?
Okay, the motion to, can I get a motion to go out of attorney-client session?
I make a motion.
Second it.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, we're out.
Wait, motion to adjourn. No. Let everyone know notice it.
No decisions were made, just a question was asked and it was answered and that was it. Okay? All right, good.
Okay.
All right, now, we're not doing anything else tonight. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. It was a question. No.
Sure.
Yeah, they said that. And the meeting right now. It is not meeting.
Oh, can you change the meeting date?
Oh,
yeah.
geez.
Do we have to open it up again?
Oh.
Well, you
No,
can
but
say-
it's wanting to move the public hearing.
Okay, we gotta also open up the
Oh, my
adjourned
God.
meeting. Okay, so we gotta open up the public hearing again. No, not the public hearing.
All right,
the public meeting.
Okay. So I make a motion, we open the public meeting.
No.
You open the
open the
meeting, you open it.
All right, I don't know.
Okay, you just call the meeting back to order.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting back to order. There are a couple of things we, just forgot about. Okay, now, calling the meeting back to order. Okay, is that all?
Public hearing to board.
All right, now, I wanna just explain that now we have 7 members that are going for training on the 10th, which is the regularly scheduled day. The regularly scheduled day for the planning board meetings is the second Tuesday of every month. And the Department of State is giving training that's gonna give each one of you 3 hours of the required 4 hours every year. And it's easy, because all you have to do is go to the training. Now, we put, last year, the year before last,
Yeah.
and it may not be pertaining to, everything here, but there is online training I sent that is pertaining to exactly what,
I took the training.
you took the, yeah, and it does answer a lot of the questions, because one of the questions, okay. So I need a motion to move the regularly scheduled planning board meeting that's normally would have been on June 10th, Tuesday, to June 11th, Wednesday at 6:30 PM, City Hall.
Initially, you said Thursday.
Well, I did, but I immediately corrected it. And I sent it out, but I don't think I sent it to you. I do apologize.
That's okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. And that is not an option, the Thursday.
Well, right now, Wednesday is the day that's available, because we have to look at the calendar. We gotta make sure our consultant and our attorneys are available, and that we have a quorum. And a quorum would be 4 people. Okay?
Yes.
So, can I get a motion to move the regular scheduled June 10th meeting to June 11th?
Make a motion.
2025. Who's second? Okay. Randall said, Randall,
Aye.
I've already talked to you about it, but yeah.
okay,
You can make that.
Gabby?
Yes.
Yeah, Gabby,
I don't think it matters, so I don't know if I can make it, but
yeah, okay, it doesn't matter, as long as we have 4, we're good.
Okay.
And you can, we'll get the minutes and everything,
Okay,
okay?
I might just.
Okay.
said I was in October.
Aye,
And you have four, you checked, you have a quorum?
yeah, but 1, 2, 3, 4.
And I would
Should be late.
Okay.
So the
Yeah.
training-
Special public hearing for 1012 Warren Street.
We're gonna Wednesday.
1012 Warren Street to, June 11th at 6:30 at. City Hall.
Okay, now we're going to, I need a motion to move the public hearing that would have been held on 10/11, on 6/11, 6/10. to 6:11.
Didn't we just do that?
No, you moved the meeting, you actually need to vote to move the public hearing.
Yeah,
Okay.
You said
make
it
a
at the
motion.
last minute, so you gotta do it this.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, one last motion.
Right, Lloyd.
I'm gonna do the 23rd too,
For what?
or June. No,
Let's,
okay,
let's.
we don't need to do that, we can do that at the meeting. Okay,
I did have a question about that,
What?
given Mayor Johnson's recent statements about that, the June 23rd meeting is still planned for, even though it sounded like he was.
well,
asking
we're
for
gonna
time.
hold it off, because he hasn't spoken to us yet, so we'll hold it off.
Or do we still have the June third meeting?
I missed.
No,
June 3rd.
No.
maybe I have that in my.
That's all it is, so.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Okay,
Mike's on.
so, the proposed June 23rd, we'll hold that off until the June 11th.
She doesn't have any bills that need to get paid?
If we do, we're gonna move on to, we do have resolutions, though, do you have any resolutions?
I got nothing.
I thought we were gonna.
Okay.
Yeah.
You probably want some,
We can do that.
don't do it next.
Okay.
We'll do that next
I
time.
need to.
You have the
You need a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Okay, we're finished with the meetings, okay, motion, can I get a motion to adjourn for it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed?
No, I want to make one more.
So, that was-